Uh,
All right, welcome to Defense Diaries. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and this is the continuing coverage of People of the State of Indiana versus Richard Allen. And I am joined by my beautiful, brilliant co-host, Allie. What's up, girl?
Hey, babe. Hey, all.
Hey, babe. Hey, all. Grueling day, an absolutely grueling day. We didn't get out until, I don't know, 6:30, 6:25-ish, and it was long. It was like the parade of correctional officers that guarded Allen at Westville was lengthy because it was all, it was all the suicide companions that were sitting out there and that would pass his cell every 15 minutes and wrote various shit down whenever they heard him saying things. And it would, like, I haven't counted how many there were, but there was quite a few of them. But we started the morning. And I know that you want to read something before we get into that. That's obviously Delphi related, very much so. But just kind of like the overarching view of what happened today. The entire morning was spent up until about quarter to one. Was watching the two interviews, one from 10:13 and one from 10:26 of Rick Allen with law enforcement. First one was with Liggett and Mullen on 10:13, and on 10:26, it was the interview with Holman that we heard about on last Saturday. So they were very, very interesting. They were very, very interesting. And you know what it did is it cemented just how much I wish the entire planet was watching this with us, because it's like this case. Like I watch a lot of cases, I stream a lot of cases, I follow a lot of cases, I cover a lot of cases. Nothing compares to this case. Nothing. This thing has everything that you can imagine in terms of just it's a who done it. Just that the facts are all over the place. You have the ebbs and the flows and the ups and the downs, and days for the state and days for the defense. And we're frankly in the state's case in chief. And I'm here to tell you it very well may be done tomorrow. I think they're going to have two witnesses come on tomorrow. And I think it's got to be Harshman. Harshman's the guy that listened to all the recordings. Like, he was the guy that went and created the theory that what changed for Rick Allen is not the day that he got his discovery, which was originally their premise, but it was the day that he found God, which in their estimation is March 17th of 2023. That's when he had he had a come to Jesus moment, quite literally. And that after that happened, that's when he starts spilling his guts over, basically uh April, May, and the beginning of June. And coincidentally, this is when he's going through his psychotic break. Now, I don't want to jump ahead. I know how did it go with covering the notes?
Well, it was hard because I know you told me you were gonna be writing, like, extra fast, trying to make sure you got every word down, so you kinda warned me um, that your notes weren't gonna be, uh, that great. So we did the best we could, but we're glad that you're here to go over them all with us now.
Yeah. Well, what I did, I was able to get. Uh, I got a friend's notes, and her notes are because here's the well, all right, before we jump into it, why don't you had made a request of something that you wanted to read, so why don't we get the show started with that first?
And I've read this before, but I figured we could do it every so often. So this again is one of the notes that was left at the memorial for Abby and Libby. And I've read it. Why don't you read it this time?
Um, that's too hard for me to read. Just read
Okay.
it. Like, I there's no way I could see that,
Oh,
babe.
oh, I didn't share it right, but I'll still read it, but I have to make it bigger.
Yeah, I could never read that. It's way too small.
I know. I
Even with my cheaters on, I'd have to be like all up, like what?
okay. So now again, this is left at the girls' memorial on the bridge by the mayor's entrance. Dear Abby and Libby, you never met me. You never interacted with me. You never heard of me. But you've guided me. The circumstances of me hearing about you girls weren't what they should have been. However, the legacy and joy you both brought to this world is something I will always aspire to bring in y'all's honor. Love, devotion, wit, brains, and happiness is what the world needs right now. So I may not be able to give you both the true justice that you deserve. I can use your virtues of love, creativity, kindness, athleticism, baking cookies for life for Libby, and crafting for life for Abby. Love, live, and light up the world.
It's beautiful.
Like the girls did in this world, and this world will have incredible times ahead. May both of your beautiful souls rest in peace with much love and vengeance for justice. Sam.
It's moving. It's moving. Yeah, and I mean, this is, you took that right before the trial started. So, this is, for this community, um, this case is everything right now. I mean that this event rocked this community like you can't even imagine. And
And
it's
robbed a
really
lot of kids of their safety
yeah,
and parents, but
yeah, like 100%. And it's yeah, I just it's like it's a just a town filled with kind people, who ultimately, as soon as it which is going along with the theme of what I saw today in terms of the interviews. And it was a really interesting day because you have this juxtaposition of the interviews, two of them that took place, like I said, on the 13th and the 26th, wherein Rick Allen never wavered ever. Like there was like why, and that it's like you can't do justice to an interrogation video by reading what they say because you're being robbed of your other senses in terms of watching it and trying to play, like a pseudo expert body language expert. It's like you
and
have to
tone and
watch
tenor.
all of it. All of it. All of it. It's like, it's like I can only impress so much in terms of what the words themselves say because you're only getting a portion of the full picture. But, let me say that I was furious. I was enraged after the first interview. I was like, because I've had no position on this case in terms of innocence or guilt, despite what people out there say. I mean, our content listens, or speaks for itself. I've always thought that the PCA leaned innocent because I just didn't think they had enough evidence. But now that we're deep into the state's case in chief, and again, I think this thing's going to be done potentially tomorrow, at the latest Thursday. State's case in chief is done. They're at the end of it. They're ending with the confessions. We spent the entire afternoon hearing a bunch of them, and I mean, at this point, and Nick was like whipping through them. It was really like McClellan was whipping through them. It was really, really difficult to keep up with them because it's like they're all coming from these sheets, but but you have, like I was talking about, you have this juxtaposition of a man maintaining his innocence under just the unbelievable pressure of the read technique being applied in different ways by different cops in two different occasions. Mullen, who was at that time the chief of police. No, I think at that time he was already working for the prosecutor's office. He was an investigator. He may have still been the Delphi chief of police. I'm not exactly sure on his timeline. He was one of the two. And then you've got him where he's far more casual, in his questioning. Like he's way, way, way less intense than Holman is, but Holman walks in having the report from his forensic firearms expert, and he's misconstrued what it says, the power of it. It wouldn't have mattered for the purposes of the read technique. He said what he said, and it wouldn't have changed anything if she had delineated that. I can't say it's a match, but it's my opinion that there's sufficient agreement between that weapon and that round, for his purposes, for what he's allowed to do per the Supreme Court. It was always going to be a match, and then obviously he continues on. I had this thing. I thought it would be cruel to do it with Scarlett. I actually wanted to do, and I don't know why I'm telling you because I still kind of want to do it. I was gonna, like, so anybody that has kids and a wife in your house, or there's the battle for phone chargers that goes in, like I wanted to make it a situation where it obviously is like an ordinance violation at best of somebody taking your phone charger out of your wall that you use every night. But what I wanted to do in order to try to demonstrate the read technique was to surreptitiously record my wife when I accuse her of taking my phone charger out of the wall, knowing that she didn't. But then following through with the process, saying that that Scarlett saw her take it out. And eventually I would have gotten her to capitulate. She would have said, "Well, I don't remember doing it, but I must have. If you're saying I did." It's like the read technique in terms of what it does, and it's not just the lying. It's not just "we got you dead to rights, buddy." It's the part of it where they can make promises of leniency. They can never say, "I'm going to let you walk." It's that old line that help me help you. It's like, "Hey, man, it's like, we think you're a good guy. We know that this thing is just something that went sideways on you. The prosecutor wants, he wants blood. He wants to lock you up and throw away the keys. This is a death penalty case, and we got you, dude. We got you." So it's the coercion in conjunction with the lying that oftentimes it's by far the most, it's highly controversial, and it's by far the most effective technique that there is for law enforcement. That's why a
Well,
vast majority of them use it.
Well, effective is depends on I mean, I effective in getting, you know
I think it gets both.
right, so that's not real effective then,
For them, it is because they don't care
'cause
if
they don't
it's
care.
false or if it's not. Look, the one thing that becomes very apparent as you sit through this trial, despite what anybody may say to the contrary, they all think that they got the right guy. Like they like this isn't a railroad job in the sense that they're trying to frame an innocent person knowingly. They they, they think they have the right guy.
I wonder if they did, if they still do, if they know someone planted that bullet in his keepsake box. I wonder if they're, you know
I mean, who would be someone? It would have to be a cop.
well, that's what I mean, if one of the cops planted it and the cops that know that, I wonder if maybe they thought the ends justified the means prior, if they still think that, or at least the 2 in the courtroom watching all this play out
Yeah,
in their heart of hearts.
I just don't think that that's a significant piece of evidence either way. Like that's like a narrative piece of evidence.
Well, I know,
It
but
only fucking matters because of their narrative. If you like, what kind of keepsake, what kind of souvenir is that when the gun wasn't used in the commission of the crime? Unless you want to say, oh well, it was used to get the girls down the hill by controlling them. Like, but that's not what you keep. That's not what you would what he's picking up and rubbing it and remembering that he dropped a fucking bullet at the crime scene.
I
He like,
whole
in theory, he doesn't even know that he dropped the bullet.
I wholeheartedly agree. I'm just saying with their narrative, they put that there thinking that it would be compelling. I'm right now of the mindset that they might have very well put that there. I don't think it means anything. I don't think it means much at all. But and I guess I've got to hear your whole, you know, what your whole thing about how today went, but based on your notes. And before you get into it, I'd like to know how was the jury during all of this?
Paying rapt attention like they always do.
Not taking notes as much or
Paying rapt attention and taking notes. No, they were definitely taking notes. They definitely were taking notes. And really watching the interview. Like that's what I'm saying. You need to watch the interview. Like the disadvantage to sitting in that courtroom and us being forced to do what we're doing with respect to taking the notes is that I'm missing watching the interview itself. I'm missing watching his responses, his cues that he's giving, if any. Like, does he like any of the things that we all look at in terms of trying to determine whether or not he's guilty of this, whether or not he's in that room being deceptive, and it's like, so I had gaping holes in my notes to you, which I warned you of because I elected to watch the fucking interview because that's what I'm in court to do. It's not just taking notes. I'm not a stenographer. I'm an attorney who's practiced for 23 years and I've tried case after case after case in front of juries, and I have value in terms of what I'm observing in that courtroom beyond just being a note taker. So it's like I'm being robbed of that side of it. I saw, like Andrea put up her shit. Like this is like where I'm at. Like I switched from legal yellow pads because they don't have nearly as much is like
support.
my composition notebooks. I can write on both page, like both sides. It's like we're sitting there like we're writing a book. Like literally, everybody that's in that room is writing a book that's taking diligent notes, and I'm happy to do it because all of us want the public to get all of this information. But I'm being robbed of being able to give insight. Like you're asking me questions about the jury most of the times I can't watch the jury because I'm writing. I'm so furiously I cannot feel my index finger at all. It's like the meat from midway through my index finger down to the side is completely dead. It's not like I'm not exaggerating. It's dead. I can't feel it. It's like so
And I asked you that today because you had already said that you didn't write as much because you were observing, so I didn't that's why.
yeah. I mean, like the reality is that I still wanted to write though. Like I knew you were going to come on because it's so helpful for me to be able to split this into two, having you do the early and then me coming in and do the late. Because it's like like after spending 10 hours in court doing that, and then just like I drove home or drove out here at 4 in the morning yesterday, and then it's like I did a 3.5 hour live last night, and then I'm trying to go to sleep and I'm still kind of like wound up from getting off the live. And then it's like, boom, I'm up again and driving over there. And then all day you're in there and it's like you're working. And then it's like I was crabby as shit with you on the drive home because I'm like, I haven't, like, I'm hangry. I got to eat. Like, I can't get on the live being a piece of shit. Like, I don't want to be barking at you. You know what I mean? So it's like, I have to eat. And you're like, and I'm like, why are you rushing me to do the live? And you're like, I'm not. And I'm like, all right. So I like got some food. I fucking decompressed for a half an hour and boom, here we are. So, all right, let's start going through these. I know there's some gaping holes. Uh, like I said, my friend gave me some pretty tasty notes and she took some pretty thorough notes. So, I'm hoping that I can fill gaps where I may have missed the boat a little bit. And I know kind of your biggest question, um, based on my notes or lack thereof, is where Rick said he parked, right? And it's like I think what you're gonna find out is like he wasn't exactly sure. He was describing it, but he couldn't say what lot it was because the topography has changed. He doesn't call it the Mears entrance. He calls it the old farm entrance. It's like he does it. But what comes clear is that him and Kathy, because he always used the word we, like and that's not something that's premeditated. That's something like what everyone felt in that room after both of these interviews is he loves his wife like I love you. Like he's willing to fucking like he doesn't give a fuck. He's like, you can fuck with me all you want. Do not fuck with my wife. Do not fuck with my wife. And it was like in the second interview when they bring Kathy in and she's just fucking devastated and she doesn't know what to think because they're out there saying, we got your husband dead to rights. He fucking killed these girls. And her mind is going all over the place. I mean, try to put yourself in that position. She's been married to him forever. And they're sitting here saying that your husband, we got him. We found his bullet. Like they're going at her separately, only to use her as a fucking tool to go in that room with her husband alone, with them, of course, observing in the hopes that he's going to fucking cave to spare his wife the pain of going through this, which obviously it doesn't because we're here. And believe me when I tell you, Kathy is in a massive amount of pain. She's been shunned from the community that they called home for a long time. It's like that. If people still doubt me when I'm trying to tell you that the family members of defendants in cases like this are unequivocally victims, I don't know what to tell you. And you were not keen on the human condition. You were oblivious to the reality of living on this planet because that woman and Jan, Rick's mother, and Ken, his stepfather, are all salt of the earth, genuinely sweet, kind people that have had their lives absolutely destroyed, notwithstanding innocence or guilt. Either way, everything that their life was, everything that existed for them prior to was destroyed. And it's a much different way than the girls' families whose lives were destroyed. Everything that they knew, everything that they loved was ripped away from them. So, like, everybody in this, my point is everybody's a victim on both sides of it. And if it turns out that Rick Allen's acquitted here, like, does anybody think that if he's acquitted, that the people who have long ago decided that he's the guy who did this, you think their minds are gonna be changed because 12 people voted him not guilty? Absolutely not. Nothing's gonna fucking change. They'll never be able to live anywhere around here. They'll have to move to a coast somewhere and start a whole new life. I mean, that's facts, you know? It's like sitting there in that room with Kathy today, and she had never seen any of this. This is all like the people that are out there thinking that either the Patties or the Williams family or the Allen family have been kept up to date by anybody, whether it be law enforcement, the prosecutors, the defense attorney. None of them have. None of them know anything. They're sitting in this trial learning things the exact same way that the rest of us are, like in real time, you know? So it's like they're going through it the same way that we are, except it's everything on the line for them. You know what I mean? It's just and watching Kathy watch that first interview and the second, like the first interview was heartbreaking. You know, it's like she's like it was confirmation for her. It's like Allison, it's like I want you to try to think about like if they arrested me on some shit. Like just that I'm serious, like kind of like out of the you're muted. If you're like out of the blue, they arrested me on some shit. They have me in there, and then they've got you in another fucking room, and they're like, "Dude, like your husband did this," and you'd be like, "What? Fuck you! No, he didn't." Like, I don't believe that. And then they keep coming at her, and they keep
Right,
coming
she's
at
not gonna think they're lying to her when they're telling her all that stuff. I can't put myself exactly in that position because I would doubt the police immediately, right away, know everything they're saying is not true or very well might not be true. And she's in a different position. She's in a position of thinking, "Oh my god, what they're telling me is true.
right,
My husband's bullet is there?" My,
right,
like, world shattered,
right.
thinking that this is a possibility because the
And
police are telling me. Right.
mind racing immediately. Like, what did I miss?
Right.
Yeah, what was I not like, did he have the washer filled with, like, dirty fucking clothes? Like, did he like, was he washing his boots off from all the mud and blood? You know, like, was I missing obvious things that I should have seen that day? You know, it's like your mind starts like, think about that part of it. Like, if, like, that was never even a thought in her mind, 'cause like I don't it's none of my business. I've never asked him like, did you flat out ask Rick if he did it? You know what I mean? It's like, would
Of
you
course
ask
you
me?
did. Yeah, of course. I mean, I no, because I know you did. I don't know. I would expect that she'd
Well,
ask.
I want you to answer it. It's a legitimate question. If
I would I
I'm
would
Rick Allen, we've been together 23 years. Like, if I'm Rick Allen, and like this has always been kind of a thing. Like, I was out there that day. There's talk, but don't want like and it's like, would you have addressed it early on? Like, don't like, why are you being weird about it?
because
This
I'm
is a
trying to think, like,
philosophical,
because I don't think that I would have thought in a million years it was true. So I don't think it would be like, "Bob, did you do this?" But I would be talking to you like, "What the fuck is it that they think? Why is it they think you did this?" Like, I'd be like, asking questions, like, talking about it in general, but I would expect someone if I didn't know anything I knew, and I started to think that the police were accurate, that, yeah, I'd be like, "Just, is there something you need to tell me?" I don't know. I couldn't imagine. It's hard
Well,
to
I
think
want
that I
you to
could.
try to imagine. I'm asking you to do this exercise with me because this is what happened in this courtroom today. Like you trying to do this, I don't know why you're fighting me on it. I really want you to try to do that. If I'm in Rick Allen's shoes with our relationship and with you fundamentally knowing who I am as a person, right? Like
No, I
I
but it
I like to think that in your heart, deep in the cockles of your heart, that you know that I would never be capable of doing something that horrific.
right, and that's
Like
why I'm saying I don't think I'd ever actually ask you, "Did you do it?" Because I don't think I'd ever in a million years, like, I don't think it would be, like, a possibility in my mind. So that's why I'm saying I'm struggling with it because I don't think I'd say, "Did you do it?" Because I would never, ever, ever, you know what I mean, think you did it. Now, that's why I was saying if I'm someone else and I'm really believing what the police are saying to me and they're like, "It's dead to rights, it's dead to rights," you know,
yeah.
would I ask? And then my answer is still, I still don't think that in a million years I'd actually think you did it. So I wouldn't be like, did you do it? But I'd definitely be talking to you about the fact that they think you did it, you know?
Well, but not for the first 5 years. He's not even on the radar. So
Oh, right.
that's what I'm saying, like, you have to like, I'm just talking about, like, I
Oh,
come
no, I
home.
just asked, what'd you see? You're a witness. Oh,
Right.
yeah,
Go
that would have been
go
it.
go talk to him.
Right.
Go let him know you were out there, right? Which
Yeah.
is exactly what happened. Like, she knew about it ahead of time. Like, she just became aware that they were looking for people that had been out there to go and make, give a statement, and he went. Alright, so, like, it was a it was a really, really rough day, like, in a lot of different ways. I was so furious after the read technique bullshit that they pulled with this guy, and I'm like, I think I've landed where I'm gonna land on this. Not like, I don't where I think this case is and what I think is where I'm gonna be. I mean, like I said, me listening to Rick in a psychotic state, making just, I killed the girls, I killed Abby and Libby, I killed the girls, killed Abby and Libby, like, just kind of like just bald declarations that he's done this, like, are not convincing to me. But I don't fucking matter at all. And who they might be very convincing to is the jury, and we'll get to that. I mean, Rosie did as good as you can do with some really shitty facts. It's like you have this kind of volume, and while he's doing it, he's really trying to paint the picture of the conditions, the environment that he was in, it's like it's hard to paint that picture when you've got resistance from the only people who truly know just how much they were torturing this guy psychologically, who are never going to admit it,
S
ever.
so did you actually get some of the confessions today or just the first 2
Yeah.
statements? Oh, you did?
Like 21 of them, like, just it's all
Oh,
statement.
lord.
We didn't hear any of the audio because that's all with Kathy and his mom, like, where he's on the phone
You
saying
didn't
shit.
hear any of that?
No, today was all just the prison guards, the
Oh,
suicide
okay. So you'll
thing.
get to that.
That's tomorrow. That's why I was saying it's gonna be Harshman and probably Walla, his psychologist. All right, let's go. All right, so we've got so in the first one, it's Steve Mullen and Tony Liggett are sitting in there on the 13th of October. They sit him down in there, and Mullen's like, "You are not under arrest. You are free to leave." Reads him his full Miranda. That's all caught on video. Goes through some preliminary questions, and I was extremely irritated by the fact that they put Kathy's number out into the world, like, during this hearing. Like, if any shitbags are gonna put it on their lives, I'm coming for them. Like, just don't do that. It's low rent. It says low rent. Like people just trying to get scoops on this thing is so weird to me. Like this is like a real life event that impacts real life people. This isn't some bullshit television show. It's like it's like that's just not my style ever. So I'm pleading to people out there, other creators that might have the desire to put information that should not have been made public during this hearing out and putting it out publicly. I'm pleading with you. Don't do that. Don't be a
I don't
jerk.
know why they didn't redact
I
beep
I,
out that.
I don't either. Kathy was exceptionally upset about it. All right, so it starts with the preliminaries. What are his email addresses? He gives two different email addresses, actually three. And then he asks him about his background. He's never been arrested before. Starts getting into his little bit of his health history. Come to find out that back in like 2010, 2011, Rick had a heart attack, had a couple of stints put in, that he worked 10 years with Walmart as a store manager. And then after that, he kind of like was tired of the bureaucracy of it. He was like it had very little to do with customer service and helping the customers, and it had everything to do with um, what did I say? Like he called it like a ledger. I got to go between both notes here. Like
I
I,
might have
I'm
I might have yours up still.
um, what are you? I mean, it's not that big of a point,
Right, it
but
was
it,
they were
but
they were
to
after
me
the
it
money.
was because it really like this is a point where I saw jurors taking notes, like where he's like, I got sick of the Walmart because it was obvious to me that they didn't give a shit about the customers, the people, that all they cared about was like the bottom line
Online.
or the ledger, or he kept using a word. Um, and I saw people writing that down because he said it a couple times. He's like once I realized that with that company, I was like, I'm out, I'm outie. So then he goes to CVS. He started in Peru, Indiana. He then transferred to Delphi in like 2016, something like that. Um,
It was about the spreadsheet.
yes, it was something like that about the spreadsheet. Yeah, it was about the spreadsheet. So then Mullins gets that background. He then switches gears and we get into the nitty gritty. And at that point, he's like, okay, what'd you do on the morning of the 13th? And so he says, well, I went to Jan's. I went to my mom's house. She's in Mexico. She had hip surgery, I think, right around that time. And, and at some point my sister got there and they were talking about uh, going out and having lunch. And I was like, nah, I'm good. Um, and Kathy was working, and I had the day off of work. So he's like, I think I probably left there sometime around 11:15, 11 o'clock. I got home. He says around 11:30. He's like, originally I was just gonna sit in the house and like kind of my habit is like, I like looking at stocks. I play the market. I'm like a day trader. It's like kind of my hobby. It's what I enjoy doing. I have like the app on my computer and I just kind of sit there and watch it all day. And it's something I enjoy doing. Um, and in the meantime, it's so I'm watching him and it's just like he's super genuine. You know what I mean? Like early on in this interview, it's like he's not acting weird. They're like you have to think for a guy, if he's the guy that's in custody after 5 years, and it seems like they caught up to him, and it's the first time he's done this. He's fucking cool. He's cool as a cucumber. Like there's nothing that I get any sense that he's got a discomfort level of being in that room, realizing that they're squeezing, that they're honing in, that they're close. Like I get no sense of it. And I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. You and I have been dealing with defendants for an awful long time. You have a sense of it. You know what I mean? You and I like to think that we're kind of human lie detectors and we can sniff out when somebody's full of shit. I mean, you know when I'm lying every fucking time. You're like, you're a lying some bitch. It's like, but like from the perspective of looking at it objectively from the outside looking in, like I'm like, man, it's just like he see, and I couldn't wait till we took the break after that first one because I wanted to see what other people's opinions were. Because my perception's only my perception. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing other than to me. You know what I mean? So it's like I really wanted to know what other people around me were thinking about it, you know. Um, so he keeps going. So he says he gets home, like probably around 11:35, and said that he decided because it was like an unseasonably warm day, like early February. And he's like, I decided to go walk out the trails, So he's like, bless you. I grabbed my jacket and then he went for a walk and decided to go. And then so he heads over to the trails. And then he says, he gets in his estimation, and now remember, this is on the 13th. This is where we have the timing issue. It's probably law enforcement's biggest bone of contention in terms of the story changing because he says I get there like I'm guessing probably around noon. So I didn't do anything else. He's like I'm trying to remember like there was nothing that I did other than grab my coat and take the drive out to the trails, right? So he's like I think I got to the trails around noon. And I parked and then I walked to the high bridge. I went out to like the first, like the first platform. Now, when we went out there, babe, the they basically bisected the high bridge. So we've got the permanent metal structure walkway that leads out to about halfway through the bridge. Apparently, back when it was the full bridge, there were two. You remember that platform we saw?
Yep.
And by the way, I couldn't get out to do the drone today. Number one, it was too windy. Number two, we didn't get out of court until it was like 6:20, so it was dark within 30 minutes. So he says he makes it to the first platform, which would have been much closer to the beginning of the bridge, right? So can you remember how far out the platform that we saw was? So there were two more back in the old days. So there was two, which were like, they were developed in the event that there was somebody working on the railroads, on the tracks or some shit and a train goes by. They have to have a place to be able to like, oh, like because otherwise it's you're jumping off the bridge in order not to get killed by the train. So they had those platforms there. So he's like, I was out there just hanging out. I was looking at the fish. I like the fish. And we talked about it. Like the fish thing's real. Like that's not some made up shit. It's like you can see some big ass fish floating around down in the river. I mean, we both saw them. Like that was the first thing I went and did. I'm like, are there fish? Sure as shit. There was a bunch of fish floating around in there. So he then says he leaves the high bridge, says he doesn't see anybody. Like, and here's the thing that I want to bring up really early. Like this is my part of my rebuttal to those that say all the people that saw Rick Allen forget about Carbaugh because she's after the fact, right? She's like in the world of Rick Allen did it. She's the witness who sees him after the deed has been done, right? Right? I'm
Right.
talking. I'm asking. What are you reading?
Oh, I'm reading your notes just while I'm just keeping up with both.
I want to just have a discussion with you right now. So just put that on
Yes,
pause for a second.
Sarah Carball
You don't
says
need to
she
repeat it. Like so,
sees
but
him at 3:57 on his way walking to his car.
Right. So my point is she's after the fact. So all we're worrying about are, the group of four, which is obviously Rayleigh, Voorhees, and then you've got Brienne, Wilbur, and then you've got uh, Betsy Blair, right? Like those are the ones. So Betsy Blair is the missing component here for me. So if you've got Rick Allen and he's the guilty guy, and we know that Betsy Blair has, at least in my estimation, had the best look at him, and that's at the bridge. That's where she said he turned around as if he was looking or waiting for someone. She's like, we didn't make eye contact, but I saw his face. He saw me. And then when he realized it wasn't who he was, like, I mean, were you there for that? But she
I
said, like, I just got the sense.
I wasn't physically there for that, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I start to get lost. Like
Me too.
we weren't even in court together, I guess, at all for this trial. Which really makes me sad.
One day we were,
One
yeah.
day we were, yeah. Um, but in the world of Rick Allen's guilty, why, and you have Betsy Blair in existence, and it's got him in the same place that he says that he was, which is the first platform, which is the same place that she says that she sees him. If it's him, why is he saying that he doesn't see her? Why admit to seeing three girls, which does not add up to how many girls it actually was, which we know is four, if that's the same group of girls.
Right. It's likely not.
But here's what my conversation to you is why, if he's already admitted to seeing the three girls, he's got three potential eyewitnesses. If he's the guy, why is he, and he's admitted to being out on the bridge?
Right. Why deny that you
Why deny
turned
that
and
he's
looked at
seen
Betsy
Betsy Blair?
Blair?
It's a real problem for me in the guilt camp. I
Well,
don't understand why he's like why he would omit that witness.
Betsy Blair's pretty clear, I think, that the person she saw is not Richard Allen.
I I think all of it's very clear.
Well, I know, but I'm, like, sort of expecting that she's gonna come in the courtroom and be like, "That is not the man I saw."
She's already testified. I mean,
Betsy Blair?
they're gonna call her again.
Oh, right, but the defense is gonna call her.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because like when Nick put her on, it was like, uh, you know, like that he did the old beyond the scope objection. Like I've heard more beyond the scope objections in this trial than I've heard in every trial we've ever done or watched combined. It's like his move. It come that act by the state always comes across as like they're hiding the ball.
I don't
Yeah.
know that the jury picks up on it as much as
We
lawyers
think
do.
they do? Maybe not.
I mean, the
I
judge
mean,
when the judge sustains something, then they just think the prosecution's right and the defense just tried to pull a fast one. You know what I mean? Because the
yeah,
judge sustained it where she absolutely shouldn't be. This is ridiculous. Like,
right.
as far as saying it's outside of the scope. He talked about witnesses that saw people, cars that were there, cars that went back, and they could have gotten into all that. Everything she basically there might have been like one. I feel like there was that was an actual outside of the scope objection, but valid one.
Right. So at that point, but I have a major problem with that portion of just the state's narrative in general. Like
Right.
and like why in the world, if he's the guy, that he would have left that out when he's already put himself in front of three other eyewitnesses, you know? And I mean, like it doesn't add up to me. It's a weird, it's a weird thing that I can't reconcile. So um at that point he says that after he's at the high bridge, starts walking back. And he talks about how he stopped at the bench. The
All right,
very
wait a minute. You skipped over the entire thing about the parking lot, about the
no,
parking,
no,
I mean
no, he comes back to that.
okay.
Yeah, this is no. Because first, what Mullins does is he just asks him about the day generally.
All right, go
And
ahead.
then what he does is he backtracks and gets into details. So I
Okay.
didn't like my friend's notes are good. Like
No,
they're
I got it.
yeah. So um I mean like there's certainly some like little details that I probably nerd out and put in there that
But I'm gonna be watching for those, so don't worry.
yeah. So all right. So at that point he says he goes and sits on the very bench that Rayleigh and Brianne Wilbur took the picture with like the I'm assuming it's the Mears farm with the green
Yes,
roof.
it's the one right where you walk in, right by the memorial.
So he says he sits on that bench for a bit, chills, looks at his phone, and then he walks back out. And then he left. That's his story. So, and this is where he kind of starts getting into the lot. So, like he says, the big P lot wasn't there. He's like, the little building was there. I could have parked there. Where'd she go? Like
I'm
the
here.
all the shit she wants to hear about, and then she's
I'm
dead.
listening.
Okay. Um. All right. So he says. So Mullins asks him. He's like, okay, so where would you have parked your car? And he says, well, he's like, I would have. He says the big parking lot isn't there, and then he says that there was. He's like, he's like, so they're confused with each other. Like that's what I was trying to say. There's like a lot of umming, and they're both like, okay, well, you mean which? And like Mullins, like, which one you mean? And he's like where the bridge is at. He's like, I don't think it was there because he's talking about in 2022 because the topography changed.
Right, just keep reading the words. We're
Okay,
following
like
you.
he's like, I don't think it was there. So there's if you went over and behind, there's a back road that went up and there was a bridge. And Mullen's like, okay. And he says, not the main bridge. He says there was a smaller bridge where you could park there. And Mullen's like, okay. And he's like, or you could park over on the other side where the farmer entrance or whatever it is over there. He says it's a farmer's entrance or something. He's like, I remember I didn't park there because that there was something, or there were a couple of vehicles there. Because he's trying to, at this point, remember what he told Dan Doolin 5 years ago. So he's trying to restate whatever he told Mullen 5 years ago.
Because that's what he was asked. Like, what'd you tell this guy 5 years ago?
Right. Well, he says that, well, no, he's trying to be consistent with what he told him. And it's fucking 5 years later. Oh, okay. Imagine you're not the murderer.
I'm just trying to tell him where I parked then. I'm not
I
thinking about what
understand,
I
but I
told
want you like
Nolan.
I want people out there to do this exercise. Imagine you didn't murder somebody, and I asked you what you did on a random day 5 years ago. And even if it's a day when a major event happened in your town, like how long's it been since like how far removed are we? We're 23. Oh my god, are we 23 years past 9/11?
Yep.
Wow. So all right, so that's probably a little long in the tooth. What's something major that happened? Like not to us personally, but something major that happened that's like, oh, I'll always remember this day when this happened. Like, I'll always remember when Kurt Cobain died. Like, I'll always remember that day. Like, I remember, like, I remember where I was sitting. I certainly don't remember what I was wearing, but like, can you think of anything from fight? Like, try to do this memory test yourself and assume for the purposes of the exercise that you're not the murderer. I mean, like, forget 5 years. Go back a year. Like, what's the coolest thing we did? Something that we had a great memory for both of us that you can think of a year
Mm,
ago.
there's a ton of things. A year
Okay, how
ago?
about we just go back to like 3 weeks ago in London?
Okay.
Okay, what do you think that you were wearing? So, probably the coolest day was the day we took the girls to go see Stranger Things at the theater. What was the name of the theater?
Nope.
What were you wearing? Think about it. Don't just say nope. Think about it. Try to remember.
I mean, but here's the thing, we packed certain clothes.
Okay.
So,
Do you have all
I
right? So you
so
have you've got an easier time than he does.
right, so I would guess, and I don't know if I'm right, that I wore jeans and a black shirt.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of powerful. All right, so I'm gonna try to remember what I wore. Now we were going to the theater, so I probably would have worn like a button down as opposed to like a t-shirt, but maybe not. Might have
Yeah,
had
'cause I
on like my
remember us talking about being more casual than we thought.
right. It's like and what did we do before we went to go see the show? You and I.
I'm trying to remember.
Were we with the girls the whole
Oh
time?
now you're reminding me. I think that we split up to eat, or we played Monopoly.
Right, but
And
after Monopoly,
I thought it was before Monopoly we split up to eat. Me
when
and
did we
Cameron went to eat, and you and Scarlett went to eat.
before the show, that was different day. That
Oh,
was different, like, so when I went to the pancake spot, I was trying to get some good Indian food, and you had to go get your Italian shit, and so we like but no, like, so what day did we go to Chinatown when the girls weren't with us? I thought that was before we went to the theater that night, but I might be wrong.
I think you're right. Or
Is
it was
am
after.
I? Because
I
I
think
thought
so.
we were really tight on time from getting way out to where
Alright, so the people get the point, though. Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
crazy.
so he's trying to go back 5 years and not only remember what he recalls in his mind as to the day, but he's also trying to recall what he told Mullen, or I'm sorry, Doolin. So he's got this thing going where he's trying to put it together in his head. You can see him doing it. And like the one thing he's clear about is I went out to my mom's that morning, right? And then he's like, well, okay. And then and I don't remember doing shit in between me stopping by the house, picking up a jacket. What color jacket? Either a black Carhartt, and he says black. Like that, when he said that, I heard I just like at that point, like Kathy's I hear her like she's like, I knew it. I knew that he said he wore like he had something else. It's like they kept lying and saying that he said that he wore a blue jacket. And where he really said that he had a black jacket, he said he had a black Carhartt and a blue Carhartt, like Carhartts, not just a blue jacket, specifically Carhartts. But he says black, um, which was not in Doolin's notes, apparently, because they have him wearing a blue and blue jeans. And remember, he goes and makes the statement to Doolin after the still is out. The picture's out to the world.
Doolin didn't ask him what he was wearing.
Correct. So,
Alright, keep reading the parking stuff.
okay. So he says I parked somewhere, either parked over on the bridge side or there used to be a little building there. I could have parked there. There was a trail. And Mullen's like, okay. until they got the whole thing done. Because I think this is when, right around when Freedom Bridge was getting built. And that lot that we parked in where you backed into that thing and fucked up my car, that lot's not there. Okay. So so Mullen's like, all right. He's like, so, and then Liggett chimes in. He's like, so when you're talking about the bridge, you're talking about the big blue bridge, the Freedom Bridge. He's like, that, whatever it's called. And he's like, well, he said, the one that goes over the highway. And then Alan's like, well, it's the it's the blue bridge, but before that was there. So he says, okay, if you're going out of town, and he's talking about Delphi, okay, because remember, the one thing that's clear about this is that he always comes through the town. Like that comes up imminently. That this whole thing with him, where Holman's got him like, oh, you take the country route or you take the town route. They always take the town route. I mean, Kathy always go through the town because I'll get there. He's like, so well, that's the big blue bridge, but before that was there was if you were going out of town, you would take the road that I think that's where the park is. And it veers off. It's a Y off this thing. And that there's a road. And the first road you come, well, I don't know if it's the first road, but there's a road that takes off to the right, and then there's houses, and then it just kind of turns into a lane. And then there's a small bridge, or there was a small bridge up there before. I mean, I think it's still there. And then he
So that
said,
small bridge is not the Monon Bridge that he's talking about.
no, I guess there was like a smaller bridge. Like a bunch of people knew about it, like after the thing. Like a bunch of people were sending me shit like maps with like graphics on it. Like
Speaking of which, Dizzy just sent you one as well. So pop one up for those of us who haven't seen these maps.
okay. All right.
All right, because I was thinking the small bridge was the Monon Bridge and the big bridge was the Freedom Bridge.
Why is this not finding my shit? I'm on the Wi-Fi. Jeez. My airdrop's not working. Hold on. It's gonna take a second.
Are you on the Wi-Fi on your phone too?
Yeah.
Both your computer? Because okay.
I am. All right. Let me. Okay. Okay. Hold on. I want to look at the title. Like I got. I'm trying to see if this is the same. All right, let me pull this one up, and then I'll
Jackie Johnson says she emailed you maps too.
See there, yeah, Jackie sent me one too. So that's one of the ones I'm talking
And
about.
Gen X Girl Lawyer says there is a Wilson Bridge somewhere.
All right, so how do you share? Like, I'm not used to sharing without having my second screen. So
Okay, so what did you open up? What did you open this picture
it
in?
opened in preview.
So did you actually click open in preview?
Oh no, here, never mind. I'll save the downloads.
Or you can open in preview, and then when you share your screen, you click instead of share Chrome tab, you have to click on window next to Chrome tab at the top.
Okay. So wait, it's under preview.
So you click presents, and then at the top it says Chrome and then window. You click
No.
window.
Wait, it's got tools, window. There's nothing with presents. There's preview.
No, you click the present to share screen.
Oh, okay. I'm with you. All right, so share screen, Chrome tab window. Yeah,
Click window, and do you see it?
maybe.
Because if you didn't open it in preview after you open it, there's like another button.
No, that's like a funhouse mirror right there. Okay. All right.
So because you clicked all share all screens. You have to click share screen, and then at the top, window, and then pick your window. But if
Okay.
you haven't opened that image on the right-hand top of an image, it's gonna say open with preview, and it's gonna actually open it, then you can share it.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Don't have the normal setup. I'm a two-screen guy. Okay, so it's only showing me one window.
And you
Like like, it's
I've
not
told
showing
you,
it's not
you
showing me the preview.
look at the picture, look at where you have the picture
How
open and
about
look.
how about this? How about I just send it to you since you know
Yeah,
how to do it?
sounds good.
See that workaround?
Yeah, I was
Quick.
just gonna suggest that, but I didn't know.
Were ya? Didn't really seem like it. Okay. Alright.
I think
Alright, that's
Mandy
awesome.
sent me one too. It's
Alright,
this
I'm gonna send you the one Jackie sent too.
Mandy's got a map right here too. I don't know if this is the same one you're talking about.
Alright, so Jackie sent a few. Jackie's are, they're photographs as opposed to, like Jackie, are any of them like the overhead view? Oh, okay, this is a good one.
It might be the same one that Mandy sent.
Alright, I'm gonna send you I'm gonna forward you Jackie's email. Okay.
Yep. In the
Si
meantime, I'm putting up Dizzy's or Mandy's.
Okay.
If that's the same one.
Okay, I just sent you Jackie's
Does
too.
this look like the same one that I put up?
Let me see. Hold on. I'm trying to make it back to you.
Your email's loading, so you'd think when I'm hardwired in, it would load faster. I don't know what's been going on.
Okay. Alright. Okay. Okay, can you make it bigger? Oh, that's never mind.
Sure.
No, that was me looking like an idiot at my own shit. All right. All right. So he says, all right. He says, okay, so it veers off to this Y thing and then there's a road. Can we see that? I think it might be that thing down where the Freedom Bridge is right there. See where that see where that thing kind of looks like a Y thing?
Yeah.
Maybe. Do you see what I'm talking about? Where the
Hold
little
on,
purple
I'm coming
thing
back
is?
to you because I'm looking at the maps that you sent. This part here? Oh, you can't see what
No,
I'm
no. Yeah, I can see it. No, go down. See where the only purple thing is?
this?
No, the only purple thing on the screen, babe.
Right.
Wait, you're moving. No, down. You're up. There. Yes. Okay, so you see that kind of maybe he's talking about that thing right there.
Alright, so
Kind
let me
of
put her pictures up here. Um,
because I don't see little houses there. That's the problem with this Y thing that's to the southeast of the Freedom Bridge. I think it's
I just lost the oh, it opens up in, like, a separate screen.
is it the one that Jackie sent?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it was very intimidating to me. I thought there was
Alright,
no way I was gonna figure that out.
here's the it should open to a screen where you coulda shared it under your Chrome because that's what I'm seeing, but
Under under which bridge going north, Jackie?
here,
More.
I'm gonna put the screen up.
Okay.
So first thing this is the last one she sent. I think that's a picture of the bridge.
Yeah, that's the little
Old
bridge.
old
Okay,
Route 25,
okay.
and then there's
That's
also
a great picture. And then the second one's like an aerial view.
she said the small bridge is in the middle. He drove under it and made a right turn and drove south to the large opening for the parking. He walked left and walked across the Freedom Bridge. All right, so I'm gonna open up the next one. So that was the first one. This is the second one.
Yeah,
That's the
blow that.
same picture that it's the picture
I
that
think it
you
goes out a little further though. I think it's a wider angle, wider lens, wider shot. Like I think
alright,
we can see more of the west.
alright, I'm just gonna blow this up while I open up the next one. So, the Freedom Bridge.
But y'all tell us, where is that little bridge that we were just looking at, like on this picture? Is it on the right side?
You don't see it. See, this is old 25?
Where?
Can't you see what my mouse is touching
Oh
over
yeah,
here?
yeah, yeah, I
So,
can.
it's somewhere over here. I'm gonna go to the next link.
Okay.
Alright. So, this is them saying you would have been coming down old 25, she said, and turning right. And then there's one more picture. 'Cause she said, "The small bridge is in the middle. He drove under it, made a right turn, and drove south to the large opening for parking. He walked to the left/east and walked across Freedom Bridge." So here's the bird's eye view you were asking about.
That's not a bird's eye view, that's a street view.
Oh, I mean, like, above.
That's a street view we're looking at right there.
Alright.
Wait, bird's eye when you're looking down on something, that's like we're standing on the street there on Old
But we're
20.
looking down on the street. What are you talking about? We're up high. Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
No, I'm clearly not. I'm seeing street view looking down, like I was standing on Old 25 looking north.
Oh, I see. You're still seeing that. You haven't seen the new one.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I was like, "Wait, that's on a bird's eye view?"
This is a bird's eye view, definitely. Okay.
So
All
there
right.
was this one.
So he says, I mean, he says, okay. So then Liggett says, oh, at the one, okay. So you're talking about the one lane kind of bridge that goes over the creek. And then Alan says it wasn't used. It wasn't a bridge that was used, I guess is what I'm saying. And then Liggett says, okay. He says it was just there was a parking area up there that you could park in. And he says that's where that's where quite a few people would park before now there's a nice parking space, the place where where we park. Keep the map up, might as
Oh,
well.
sorry.
One of the maps. And he says now there's a nice parking space. Before it was either you parked there or you parked over in the farmer's place. And and at one point, I think they had marked it that they didn't want you parking there. He's talking about mirrors. They had posted that to quit parking over here. We don't want you parking over there. He's like, so I know I wasn't over there because I told them something about some cars that were there. And so I would have been parked up on the bridge side of things. I guess that's what I'm saying. So then at that point, Mullen shows him like a bird's eye view picture. He says, so obviously this here is the Freedom Bridge over the Hoosier Heartland Highway. And Alan says, yeah, okay. And he says, can you mark on here where you think that you parked? And then Rick does it. And then but he's looking at it, he's like, show me the blue bridge again, because obviously he couldn't see the bridge real well from the picture.
This is the Blue Bridge, the Freedom Bridge.
Well, Mullen points out where the blue bridge is, and he says that here's Main Street, the road that comes out from downtown and then goes to the Heartland Highway. And he's like, here's the Andersons' place. And I think that's going to be their fertilizer plant over there.
Okay, the fertilizer plant, if I'm correct, is across the street from CPS building, the old CPS building that's torn down.
Right. And he says, well, so Alan says, so if that's the Blue Bridge, I mean, it's right there. It would have been over in here. And then he indicates, which we obviously couldn't see, somewhere probably. And then so Mullen says, yeah, well, that's one of the parking areas. Okay, then he's like, or it would have been where there was an old building somewhere over there. And he's like, this map was taken back when the building was still there. And this is the building that was on the bridge, the trail side of the bridge. And Alan says, okay. So down So he's like up here where I have my finger and he's pointing on something and he's like, you go this way. And he's like, I think you went down that way. And that's Alan saying that. And Mullen's like, okay. And then Rick says there's an underpass or something. And Mullen says, yeah, that's right where that's right. And then there was a building right there indicating on the map, if you can see it. He's like, okay, so it would have either been there. He points at two different places, there or there. And then Mullen says, okay, all right, very good. Which way do you think that you would have traveled to get to this building that particular day? He's like, just that way that loops around. So there's the loop that we heard him talking about when he's in the room with Holman, that Holman testified about, that Holman kept trying to get him to say, or did you ever take the old country route? He's like, no, we always took the loop. He's like, Alan's like, I just don't, I don't know the names of the roads or anything. You know, he's like, I mean, I could show you where I drove, but it's just on the way, you know, the road that goes out. It's basically the same way you get to this one, except no, it's like further up and you go down. It's like, this is why my notes were so like, everyone's notes have to be like this because this is the shit that they were saying. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, oh, I parked at the old CPS. He didn't say that. Like in this interview, he's just kind of like he's trying to explain where he parked. And like I'm just telling you, when we were there, I found it very confusing because there's like a conglomeration of roads that all lead to different places. And like you have to go way down out of the way to get back to come back the same way. Like we didn't park, we parked at the Freedom Bridge lot because I followed the signs up there. You know what I mean? So it's like we wouldn't have taken Old 300. We didn't take Old 300. I walked down Old 300 or 300 North
Yeah, and then you parked at you drove down to
cemetery.
right.
Well, you were parked at the cemetery. I
Right, but
walked a
then
little.
right, you picked up the car.
Right, right, and then scooped you. And then we went up to our spot where we parked. So, like, this is why I need to get out with the drone. like like we need the drone footage. I need to walk it all again. I need to I want to know every nook and cranny, and I'm going to time it all. And I have the robot arm that you got me, and I'm going to learn how to use it. So I'm going to film it all, counting it off, and like we're all going to know exactly how long it's going to take. I'm done guessing on this shit. I'm done like half understanding the topography. It's like you can't understand this case unless you understand that part of it. You know, it's like I have to commit it all to memory so that like when they're talking about something, I know exactly where they're talking about instead of me trying to figure it out in my brain. So then, so that's kind of how he describes where he parks. Are you any more clear? Because you were giving me a lot of shit about my notes, and I'm like, it was hard because we're in the middle of an interrogation, an interview, and like he wasn't like he couldn't name roads because he's not familiar with the road names, and he's trying to describe where he parks by landmarks, and like that's it. So that's what you get. So then Mullins so then Mullins slips in with was there ever a time where you might have gone to the park another way? He's like, did you go out here very often? I should ask. He's like, no. It's like, I wouldn't say often. I mean, we go out like maybe once a month. Or he says, you know, sometimes we'll go twice in a week. It just depends. And he's always saying we every time. Like he doesn't come in like if anybody thinks that on the 13th that he's thought so far ahead that he's like, all right, when he asks me about me, I'm going to use the word we, implying him and his wife. You're giving him way too much credit, and Rick is no idiot. Like that's obvious. Like he's picking up what they're putting down as soon as this thing turns. As soon as this interview, he gets the vibe that they're like when he's like, I'm not going to be the fucking fall guy for this shit. Like I got goosebumps. Like I was like, oh shit. Like, you know, because this is really the first time they come at him on the 13th. And he's like, But like I guess the counter argument to that would be, well, maybe he was thinking of it. He was thinking about that coming in, and that was his move. You know what I mean? That's like that's what's going to be the counter argument. But it's just the way that it's said and the way that he's acting, and he's not getting weird and defensive, and he's not taking opportunities for ways out of things. You know what I mean? Especially with Holman. Like when Holman's like deep into the read technique and he's giving him outs, he's making suggestions that would possibly explain a way that a bullet that matches his gun, how that ended up 6 inches away from the girls. And he's saying, I can't, did you loan your gun out to somebody? Are you sure? Waiting for him to take that bait and be like, you know what? I did loan my gun out to somebody. You know what I mean? Like catch him in a flat out fucking lie right there. Like tempting him with these like morsels of okay, like that's part of the read technique. Just giving them outs to see if they'll bite. Where as the cop that he'd be lying. So he says, okay, and then Alan says, fine. He's like, I'd say we visit it regularly during the summer months. Says we really don't go out there much in winter. We might have gone out a time or two. He's like, so this is where Mullen backtracks. Because remember, Mullen at this point, they have the Hoosier Harvest picture, which they're going to show him in this very interview of the black car. So he's like, is there ever? So he needs him saying that he goes 300 North route so that he drives past Hoosier Harvest. So Mullen circles back and he says, is there ever a time that you guys took another path to get out there? Besides going around this way, talking about the loop. Do you ever remember anything like that? He's like, and like, this is like Rick's answer. Like this, he's like, I think there's a way if you go past where you park, like the farmer's entrance that I was telling you about. I think that that's down here, indicating that there's an entrance across from a residence that's a farmhouse. That's what Mullen says. And Rick says, does that make any sense? And Rick says, okay, yeah. He's like, I mean, I know there's a way that winds around and you can eventually get back to 200 or whatever the road is that we're off of. 200 North, I think it is. Mullen's like, yeah. Said it comes out somewhere down there, but uh only did that. We only did that. I think we found that by accident one time. He's like, we thought we'd go that way and tried to get back, and we eventually came out that way somewhere. Which is like when he's saying that, and when we were driving over there, that's exactly how I felt, not being familiar with it. Now he goes there frequently, but they always come in through town. Like that's just how they go. Because frankly, I did find that other path very confusing because I didn't understand how the roads work. Because you just have a bunch of like, it looks like a knot, like a knot of roads where I don't know which one meets up with where and where one pops out, and it's a strange area in terms of
And
how.
I even as far down 300 as we got, I didn't realize, like I said, when traffic was coming from the other way, at first I assumed, "Oh, that's someone that lives right there. That's someone that lives right there." And then I'm like, Where are all these cars coming from?" Like, I didn't know there was another road down there, obviously not knowing the area, but looking down the street, I did not anticipate that another road was there based on, like, the way we came in. I just assumed it dead ended at the houses that were down there.
Yeah. All right. So, and then he says, all right. So then he's like, Okay, so then he said, so then he switches over to the statement to Doolin. Okay. And he says, so he's like, I want to talk more about what you remember being there, what you remember doing that day, seeing that day. He's like, okay. He's like, you gave an account to Doolin, the officer who talked to you. Do you remember how that was prompted? How that happened, that you talked to the officer. He's like, and Alan's like, I don't remember if it was the next day or a couple of days, but shortly thereafter, they were asking for anybody that was down there to come in. He's like, so I went down. I got home from work, and my wife said, they want to talk, because I had obviously told her that I was there. And she said, well, they want to talk to anybody that was down there that may have information. How much? But obviously, I will go down there. So he says he goes down to the sheriff's station. That's originally what he does. And then he doesn't remember who it was that came out and he talked to him. He said they get his name and his information. And then he's driving downtown. And then he was driving downtown for something. He says he doesn't remember what it was, but he was in the car because he pulled over and talked to him, and it was a DNR officer. So that's Doolin. That's the day that Doolin calls him. So that testimony came out, making it sound like Rick was at his house. Like, that's how that testimony came out when Doolin was on the stand, where he says, "Oh yeah, I asked him to come down to the station. He didn't
No.
want he didn't want to do that. I asked him if I can come out to his house." He's
And they
like,
didn't
"No."
mention he had gone down to the station in the first place.
Doesn't mention that he originally went down to the sheriff's station to give his intel, to give his number, to have them call him. So he's like out downtown, like there, and then he's like, "Oh, this is like, I'm right over here. Would you just meet me here?" He's like, "I wanted him to meet him somewhere. I don't remember how or why, but I think they were really busy. They were crowded." So he's like, "I was heading down to the Save a Lot parking lot down there, and I told him I'd just meet him there if that was okay." So he came down, we talked, he looked at my phone, he took my phone information. I think he took the battery out and everything. And Mullen says, "Oh," and then he got information off of it. So he's like, and that was pretty much it. I mean, I gave him the account. Like, forgive me. I mean, it's been years, and I've thought about it a lot. And as time goes by, he says, but I think that I was there probably around noon. So this is where his story changes. He's like, it could have been a little bit before noon or a little bit after noon. I walked down back an hour or so, probably 1:30, 1:45, depending, is when I left. So exactly what time it was that I got there that day, I just remember walking down the trail, and I told him that when I was approaching the trailhead, that's what he calls it, that there were three girls walking off the trail. And I just remember looking at it like one of them was probably watching, or not watching, but babysitting the two other ones because they looked a little younger. And he said and they looked very similar. I don't know if they were sisters or whatever, but the other one didn't necessarily. But I remember seeing them walking off the trailhead, and I didn't see anybody. I didn't really see anybody. I walked down. Like I said, I looked at the water, and I walked back. I sat, and somebody could have walked behind me, I guess, but I sit on the bench that overlooks the creek bed and all that. And I remember telling them when I left, I remember being there. I think that was where the two vehicles down there on that farmer's entrance that I told you about. And that's why I know I didn't park there, because obviously I wouldn't have recalled seeing cars there if I'd parked there. So he says Mullen's like, the farmer's entrance. Are we still talking about this area here? He's like, yeah, it's like there's a pull in, like right next to the trail, is all I can tell you. There's like a pull in right next to the trail, and a trail actually leads up to the trail. He's like, yeah, okay.
That's
So
Mears.
he's like, yeah, he's like, you're talking about what, the old Mears farm. Alan's like, probably. He's like, Sherry Mears. He's like, there was a farm, there was a farmhouse across. He's like, yeah. He's like, so I mean, I guess it looked like where you take farm equipment in and out or something like that. I don't know. And at one point they flagged it and it said no parking. So I didn't park there for a period of time. He's like, did you ever park there before you went in? He says, yeah, a couple of times you did. Okay. He's like, I mean, we used to when it wasn't marked. He says, we did a cleanup down there, like with a bunch of Walmart people, kind of a community engagement thing. And we did a cleanup down there. It was like the year that they tore down, um, if you go down, not the high bridge, but the one where you sit uh, down on the bench. And he says, um, that there used to be a little shed, a little shack down there that they tore down. But we were there that day when that we tore it down. And then so he's like, "Did you now did the guys now you guys did that with Walmart? Was that the local Walmart?" And he's like, "No, Lafayette." He's like, "So, they start talking about that shit for a while." So he's like, "Okay." Um, he's like, "I wasn't even with it was what, 17?" He's like, "Yep, when the girls were out there." It's like, "Yeah, 13. I wasn't even with Walmart at that time. I already been with CVS." So it would have been way before talking about when they did this thing with Walmart. So, and then he's trying to remember what year that was that he went over to CVS. He thinks it was like 2013. Um, all right. So he's talking about some dude talking about Dan McCain. He's like, yeah, McCain. I don't remember how I was acquainted with him, but I asked him because at Walmart, as a leader, they always want you to be involved in the community, and I mean, it's a good thing. But you can also give money. So because we brought out so many people for the event that day, we had so many hours we were able to donate money because of that from Walmart to the Erie Canal Foundation. Okay. Um, so then he's like, so yeah, so then I sit there for a few minutes at the bench, I think he says, and there were a couple of vehicles. I may have told him the exact makes of the cars. I'm not sure. I just remember the one was like a sedan, and maybe one was like an SUV. And then he says, he's like, you'd have to look back at what I said in my interview with them. And and then Liggett's like, so, and that was at what you call the farmer's entrance. He says, yes, sir. And Liggett says, is that what you're saying about where you parked? Were there any other vehicles? He's like, I know there were no other vehicles where I parked because I don't remember telling him. I mean, he asked and I didn't see anything there that day. No. So like a lot of people would park at that farmer's entrance because I'm thinking that that was probably when they didn't really want you parking there. That's probably why I didn't park there, but it's much closer to the trails. So a lot of people like to park there. It's like you can walk in and you're actually like halfway through the trail. So you can walk one way and the other and leave. But I don't know, at one point, like I said, they just didn't want us parking there, so we didn't. So then Liggett says, so back then, if I told you that it was the old farm bureau, so that would be, he's like, no, I never really knew that place. Uh he's like, I just remember telling him that there was a building there, and that if that's where I parked, that's probably if that's where I told him I parked, that's probably where I parked. But because, like I said, we would either park either at obviously the farmer's entrance was always the most convenient, but there was a bridge, a small bridge before the blue bridge. I don't even know if I got this right. And he points to something on the map and says, this is the Andersons. So there's a funny little tiny little one-way bridge. It wasn't even a road anymore. Like you could either go towards the blue bridge, the one that you drive under, Liggett says. He says, yeah, I think you drive under it. The one now, like Liggett says, now I follow what you're saying. The parking lot wasn't there on the other side. So you didn't you went like you take this road that forks off. coming out of Delphi somewhere. And then you take that right. It's just a little road. And there's some people that live along it. And at the end of the road, it goes up like this, like I said, and there's a parking area where people used to park. Like it's like I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think you can't see it on here, but you're describing is a road that leads up to this parking area that you're talking. It's just out of sight of the side of the bridge. He's like, sure, probably, yeah. So then he switches gears. Like so, like where he parked is not 100% clear.
Doesn't
You know,
sound like the CPS building either way.
you don't think it sounds like the old CPS?
I don't know. That
I don't know either.
sounded way too there's a small road, and then there's a bridge, and then there's some, you know, that's across from the I think the Andersons, the CPS. I don't know.
But I mean, if like this spot, like so, if that's the case, Betsy Blair doesn't help them, right? Because like she's talking about seeing the old CPS lot, and there's no car there. So, but what does help him is that he's nowhere near anywhere close to Hoosier Harvest.
Right.
He's not seen, like there's no human being seen walking, and then there's the car, but I don't know how convincing the car thing is. Like those rims are stock. It's like you can either get one or the other. It's like when you go and buy a new car, it's like you do want these wheels. He does tell an interesting story about how he ended up getting that car new in 2016. So then Mullen asked him, so like, how far did you go out on the bridge that day? He's like, do you remember? He's like, and Rick's like, on the high bridge? He's like, yeah, I have no idea how many feet. I always know there's one of those platforms that stick off to the side. He's like, are you like, he's like, years past, like 9, 10 years, six, between 6 and 10, I actually been able to cross the high bridge back when it was in a little better shape. He's like, but 8, 9, 10, somewhere it started getting pretty rugged and I stopped going across it for the most part. Um, I didn't go past that one platform, whatever that thing that sticks out. I'd go out there and kind of look. Like I said, I'm a fisherman. I'd look and see if any fish or anything, and then I went back the other way. Um, so he says, so then they try to go back to the parking. So it's like, if you were parked there, and correct me, this is Liggett saying it. Correct me if I say anything. He's like, the bridge, or okay, Alan says, and is that building. I'm sorry if you're parked there. How did you get to the trail? Where did you walk? He's like, at one point you could either walk down the road, but then at one point they had a trail there. Not, I wouldn't even call it a trail. It is like a gravel path or something that led to a new thing, and which I call the trailhead. Um, and when they started doing all that, there was a trail that would, I think it ran along the road, if I remember. And I could just remember where the path was at. You think that they could park there, but it was no parking. So you had to just like walk. You either parked over here and then points at something on the map. It was actually closer if you went over here. You could just walk to the bridge that way. And then if you went this way, it was a little bit further because you walked along the road to that. See, it's like you're watching this thing and it's like he's pointing to shit that we can't see.
So
You know,
here's my confusion, and I got Dizzy or Mandy need to tell me who put this stuff on the map. So I'm gonna go over here so you can see it. Babe, they're saying this is the old CPS building, which would be on the same side of the street as the Hoosier Harvest store. However, when you and I were there, we were told there was this little gravel carved out area right basically, I think where you can't see on this map, right beyond it, but across from what is
Yeah,
here marked as the old CPS building.
right.
This building is still here, and there are, like, cameras that, apparently are only live cameras, they don't record. So I don't know if this is right and where we were is wrong, or if this is wrong, but it's still there, and I think that that is what he might have been calling the Andersons. Um,
Where that like kind of little bald spot
no, this thing that they're calling the old CPS building, that building is still there, but across the street on this side,
that was a bald spot that
there
I'm
was a
talking
building torn down. Right,
about that just had kind of like a circular spot that the people we were with said was the old CPS lot.
right. So Jackie is saying that on this map that's marked as the CPS building, that's the Andersons, and that's what I understand is that to be is the Andersons. The there is still 2 structures over there on that side of the street. However, on the opposite side of the street, over here, but maybe right off, there used to be a building, and there's, like, just a like a cement small area because apparently they used some of the land that, uh, probably to make the road going up to the lot for the high bridge. I mean, for the Freedom Bridge, I don't know. So, I'm not sure who named this the old CPS building. Oh, wait, you know what? The star is on the other side of the street. Sorry. Okay, the star is in the right spot, I guess. And then this structure here is Anderson's, but the star is on the opposite side of the street, and that is right where we were. Sorry, guys, this map looks right then.
Yeah. Um,
But I don't know, what is this,
I mean, this is where I'm gonna leave it with you until I do my own drone shit with Ryan. Like, I gotta be like, I'm a boots on the ground guy. This shit doesn't mean anything to me, like, until I'm walking it. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, it's not helpful. It's like I have to be able to like you just can't like I can't really visualize it from the ground level, which is what I need to do in order like, and I'm gonna walk all the different ways you can walk, like all of them. All right, so he says that so they keep going about the parking thing. And he's like, he's like, so they had put that in like a gravel path, and then you would park there. So either parked over there or you parked over there and walked down the gravel path, and the path cut over to like where the trailhead thing is. And then he says, and Rick says, so I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know that we ever parked at that little building or whatever it was until they laid that gravel path to it. And I think that we thought that that was new. See, like that sounds to me like the old CPS, like that circle you're talking about that somebody
right,
told us was the old CPS building, like that little, I guess the designated park area. And that's where we parked there. It's like once in a while, we'd still park over here, indicating once in a while, which I have no idea where he's pointing at. Just depending on, um, he said there were times that we parked there on and off, and whenever they didn't have it posted that they didn't want you parking there, we probably did a time or two. I did have it posted, but we didn't make a habit of it. So then he talks about his cars. He's like, so he's like, that car that was in your garage. Is that what you would have drove out there, Day? He's like, "Oh my god." He's like, "Oh, let me think here." So would it either have been the gray Ford 500, which we kind of switch vehicles back and forth, talking about him and Kathy, because he's like, because oftentimes I worked further away from home when I was working in Peru. So he said I had the little red Ford Focus and our trucks. We'd get our trucks at like 4 in the morning. He's talking about like I'm assuming back in the Walmart days. So on truck day, he'd be driving over Peru at like 3 in the morning. And one day he was driving, he was so tired um, that he fell asleep in the car, and he woke up and when his airbag went off, and he had veered off the road and hit an SUV. on the side of the road, and that's literally when he woke up. And so that's when he bought the black car, the Ford Focus, the 16. He says that, yeah, the one in the garage. And he's like, I got that car because I had to drive back and forth, and I wanted something that gets good gas mileage. So he's like, my point is, I was driving the black car and then I transferred and came back to Delphi. I didn't need the gas mileage anymore, and it was a nicer car. So I gave it to my wife. And from that time until just like he's like earlier this year, I drove the gray car and she drove the black car. Now, if I were going out of town, a lot of times I'd use the black car depending on how far I was going or how far we were going. It's like the gray car was dependable, but it's just one of those like a longer drive. And I was gonna like if I was going to Lafayette or something. He's like, I'd take the black car just because it's more dependable. And he's like, so from during that time period, I drove the gray 500, and she would drive the black car, her old cat license plate and all that on it. Um, and then when I got her a van, the red car had pretty much had it. And then I had a truck for a few years. Um, and so we traded them both in, and I got the van that she drives now. And then I went back to driving the black car. So, like, he's talking about now, not then. He's like, so on this day, um, he's like, so then Mullen's like, well, if I remember, you had gone to your mom's place in in Mexico, Indiana. And he's like, would you have planned to drive the black car that it was a trip because it was out of town? He's like, I wouldn't have planned. No, it was during the time that was. It's like the gray car was still. It's not like it was a junk car. We bought it brand new. It's like it was a 2006. But I just say, in the last 3 or 4 years, it's not the car didn't run well. It's just one where it's old enough that um, I don't want it to break down. I don't want it to and get stranded somewhere. So he's like, I don't know which it was, either the gray or the black one that day. So Mullins is like, it's either one. He's like, it could have been. So it could have been the black one. It could have been the gray one. Mullins like, it makes sense. It was a '06 Ford 500. So then Liggett's like, well, so when you get on the trail, you see the three girls. Where was it say that you saw the girls? He's like, they were up around the trail. I mean, I didn't like interact with them. It was up around the trailhead. So he's like, but you call it the trailhead. And then he's like, you were by the bridge. He's like, when I say they were leaving, yeah. He's like, I'm assuming they were leaving, or they came back down from where those cars were parked, and they were going to go back that way. I don't know. So like that part, I'm like trying to figure out. Like, is he saying that because they all like those girls? Oh, she left. She's she's gone. Where'd she go? I don't remember him saying he's ever walking down the road. I didn't read that he said he was walking down the road. Wait, where'd you go?
Listening. I think
Huh?
he's saying that the girls came from the Mears entrance and headed back to the Mears entrance based on what you just said.
So, but like that's not what their story was. The girls that testified said that they crossed the Freedom Bridge.
Well, that was 4 girls. He saw 3 girls, 2 younger, 1 older. They were completely different girls, I'm convinced of that.
Well, but like it was three sisters and a friend.
Are they not all the same age? Are 2 of them significantly younger?
One of them's 12, and the other one I didn't catch the other sister's age.
I think one was a 9-year-old and the
And
others were older.
no, one was 12, and I can't like where'd you
12 is
get
a lot
nine?
older than 9.
One was a lot older than 9.
I'm just saying 12 looks a lot older than a 9-year-old.
Yeah. Um,
I think they're completely different girls.
I mean, like that's what I think too. Like, I mean,
Matt says they were 2 sisters and 2 friends.
yeah, it
Right.
was two sisters and one friend. It was Rayleigh, okay, Voorhees, and her two sisters, and then Brienne Wilbur. That's it.
Okay. Well, I just think he's talking about 3 completely different girls. 2 younger, 1 older.
Right. I do too. Like I happen to think that he was there at the time that he says at this point, which is from 12 to like 1:30. Like it makes the most sense. I mean, like I'm having a really, really hard time wrapping my mind around the fact that he has decided on this day to go out to the bridge
After seeing his
and
mom and sister.
to kill two girls, and then he's just on a lark. He's gonna go out there. He's like, today's the day. Today's the day. I'm gonna live out my fantasies that I've been thinking about for all these years, and I'm gonna go do this horrible shit. And I don't care that a bunch of people see me. I'm just gonna go do it.
Right, in the
Like
middle of the day.
I don't care. I don't care that all these people see me on the bridge. Um, it's just it's hard for me to wrap my mind around. It's like people are thinking of this in such a like a vacuum. It's like they're not taking it like people that go and are like planning to murder somebody typically go to great lengths to make sure that they're not seen. That's kind of the key to getting away with things. Like having yourself be out there and being seen by all kinds of people is contrary to what common sense dictates in that situation, right? I mean, it's like,
Right.
um, like I don't know what the counter argument to that is. Okay, so then he says, I remember. Okay, so he says, I remember seeing a couple. So he says the thing about the sedan again, the van, and then or the SUV, and he's like, and then Mullen's like, "So, do you know where you went afterwards?" He's like, "I went home that day. I always watched the stock market and then traded."
He
He's
should have
like,
some trades.
"Right, like why can't we check
Logging into his account at home.
on his right? Well, like that's such a good point. Like, why aren't we looking at his TD Ameritrade and very like if he made trades that day, that would be fucking huge.
Right. Or
God damn
even
it,
logged into his
you just
account.
cracked the case." Right, just let's log into his Trade America account, TD America account. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They took all his devices. They must know I just don't know if the defense had them examined separately because we were never hearing anything about it. And you and I screaming to each other, like, I hope they've got somebody, forensically examining his computer and his phone to figure out what he was doing, where he was, and when he was doing it. She was at work. So was there activity on the home computer, on the laptop, or they said that there was a tablet or something? Was there activity on it? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Unless it's too old. Well, no, the computer
Oh,
was
you think
still
he's
alive.
gonna they'll have his account information?
Right.
I
Well, that's
mean
for actual trades. I'm just saying activity on the computer,
I
logging
mean, but, like,
in.
if the state you would have thought that the state would have thought to do that too and be like, "Okay, well, you told Mullen and Liggett here that you were trading. Now we went onto your TD Ameritrade account for that day, and we don't see any trades." You know what I mean? It seems like that would be good evidence against him, equally as good for him if he could prove that he did that. I mean,
I'm
they
still
do it all the time with TV shows.
I'm still
Or like
listening. I gotta deal with the dog.
that was the whole Scott Peterson thing with the fucking what's her face? Martha Stewart talking about some shit. What were they talking about? I forget. It was like a big aha moment in the court. Okay, um so he's like he was talking about, well, what about you? You told Mullins you were doing it on your phone. He's like, I think I had a program on my phone to watch the stocks. So you'd be keeping track. He's like, yeah, I had a program I could, depending on the reception, of course. If you didn't have any reception, then it wouldn't work. It's like, was it fairly good out there that day? And Alan's like, honestly, I think that's why I went home quick as I did, because I wanted to get home and watch it on my computer with my stock tickers and all that stuff. It's like, oh, I see. That's what Mullen says. And he says, he's like, that was like the trading was a hobby for me. It's like watching the stock market and looking at the charts and trying to predict when something's going to do and to make money off of it. He's like that. Well, that like in Liggett said some shit like that's like out of my league. And Alan's like, yeah, me too. I just didn't realize it at the time. So then Liggett's like, what were you wearing that day? I mean, you said you put on a jacket. So Rick's like blue jeans, and I'm pretty sure I put on a jacket because I think it was still fairly cool. I don't think it was super warm, so I would have put on a jacket. And then Mullins is like, what kind of jackets did you have back then? He's like, I've had Carhartt jackets over the years. Then Mullins like, what color's your jacket? He's like, the one was blue and the one was black. Probably back then it would have been the black one. It had a good built-in. He said it had a good built-in to it. It was just a black zip up. He's like, I don't even think it was a Carhartt. I think it would have been off-brand, but it was like a Carhartt. I could have worn that. I've had sweatshirts, like hoodies, jackets. I mean, I've got a little bit of everything. Fleeces. So he says, I've always kept a hat in my coat. He's like, I don't know what you would call him, like a skull cap or something. So Mullen's like, so a cap on your head and anything else you would have been wearing? Like what kind of shoes? He's like, I don't know. So I might have gone with probably like tennis shoes. So I usually make them last a long time. He's like, I got shoes that I've had for 10 years plus. It's like I also had some military boots that I used to wear, but they just don't fit. Plus, I've been out of the military forever. Yeah, I had some combat boots in my closet that I used to wear occasionally. I don't know if I was still wearing them or not. He said I could have had a pair of work boots on. He's like, I don't know. But he lands on like some probably some older tennis shoes. But if it was wet out, I'd wear a boot, like a work boot. So and then Liggett, like they pull the they're kind of like good copying. I'm like neither Liggett or Mullins is being like a total jag off to him at this point. Like they're both pretty friendly. It hasn't gotten antagonistic, and we're probably like I don't even know how far into it we are at this point. Probably like an hour into this interview, and like they're both. So then, like Liggett's like, say, do you have a picture of that car or no? And like Mullins is like, oh, he's like, actually, I think I do. I do have a picture of the car on the road. Apparently, so a couple of things. He said I wanted to ask you after I checked my phone because it's just ringing like crazy. So so this is where Mullins starts trying to like tighten tighten the grip a little bit here. He's like, so what we'd like to do is we'd like to be able to confirm some of the information that you've given us to so far. He's like, we'd like to be able to examine your phone. He's like, as you're aware, phones go everywhere with people and they tell a story about what people do. And sometimes the information on a phone can confirm what you're saying is true. And then Rick's like, that's true. Rick says, okay. Like just like that. Like he doesn't get weird when like Mullen kind of just like all of a sudden, it's like, so look, we really want to take a peek at your phone. We want to extract it. We think it'll help verify where you went, what your story is. And he's like, and because Rick's got his phone the whole time. Like he's got it. He looks at it occasionally.
And this
And
is the 1020, the
then
1016 interview?
1013.
1013, 2022.
And he'll toss it on the table, his phone. He'll look at it. And so they tell him that we'd like to take your phone. And he's like, well, okay. He's like, we'd have the ability to extract the data from the phone and be able to look at it and be able to tell where somebody was at. And Rick's like, okay, yeah, I know that. So he's like, would that be something you would allow? Would you allow us to take care of that today to get it done? And then Rick's like, I mean, like, how long are you gonna have my phone? Which is a very legitimate question. Remember, like like at this point, like he doesn't realize that they're fucking looking at him. And right here, at this point of the interrogation, which is what it is, it's a gentle one in comparison to Holman's. But this is when he realizes that these guys are looking at him. I talk about it all the time. Talk about it all the fucking time. If you're an innocent person, please, for the love of all that is sacred, do not think that saying, I'd rather have an attorney with me. I think I'm done talking to you. It does not make you look guilty. It makes you look smart.
And even if it makes you look
If
guilty, it's
if
still
if
in
it's
their eyes, it's still smart,
who cares about
right?
them?
Because
Is
they
it
already think you're guilty
right?
for talking to you.
This is the perfect example of a situation where if Rick Allen is innocent of this, if he is, all of this would have been avoided if he would have gotten an attorney.
And we always tell people, I said, if the police are looking to speak to you, it's one of two things. Usually, it's right before they're going to arrest you in hopes that you are going to say something that helps them. It makes their case even stronger. The second option is they don't have enough evidence, they can't charge, and they are hoping you're going to give them enough evidence so that they can charge you. Those are your two options. So if they're coming to talk to you, they already suspect you.
Yeah. Um. Okay.
And
So
sorry, I'll just say this. The other thing I always tell people is you say to the police, I'll absolutely would love to talk to you. I'm going to give you my lawyer's number so you can, um, make arrangements with them to,
yeah,
and then you let the lawyer be the bad guy. Love to do it. But I give
right,
you my lawyer's number, call him, or I'm going to call
right.
my lawyer, get
My
back to
lawyer is very strict about me talking to the police without that phone call.
you.
I don't want my
Or
lawyer mad at
I'm
me.
happy to talk to you. Let me give you a call back. And then the lawyer calls back.
Right. Um. So he says, "All right. So ideally, we'd like to have the phone that you had, but when you got that phone, did you take the data from the old phone? So here we're getting into the phone shit.
And that's what I've been saying the whole time.
And did you move it to the new phone?" And Rick's like, "I have no idea." He's like, and Mullen's like, he's like, I mean, I know I've always tried to save my contacts. Mullen's like, right? He's like, so if you have the phone, like, where'd you get the phone at? Like, who's your service? He's like, I go through this company called Ting, Ting. Rick's
I've
like, it's
never
not
even heard of such a thing.
me. Oh, well played. Well played. Rick's like, it's an online service. A lot of people don't know about it. It's really inexpensive. And I had it for years now.
He's watching that money and trying to make more on stocks.
Yeah. I mean, he's like, I mean, he works at CVS. He's not making a fortune. You know what I mean? Um, so he's like, you basically you can pay full price for your phone. And then they have discounted ones. So you usually pay a couple $100 for a phone. He's like, or you can pay $600 or $700, whatever. He's like, so then you own your phone. He's like, right. He's like, I only pay like $40 a month for 2 phones. Tony Liggett's like, wow. Totally good cop and I'm bad cop and I'm, but it's really good cop until it's not. But neither of them get heated. Rick gets a little heated at the end. So he says, so your service provider, is that Ting themselves or is another? He's like, I think right now it's Verizon. It's one of those deals where they use each other's towers and stuff. He said, do you remember what you had back then? He's like, I know I didn't have this one yet. I don't even know if they were making those yet. And Mullins is like, no, I mean your service provider. He's like, well, I've had Ting. He's like, God, I've had Ting for several years now. He's like, I probably would have had Ting. So they may have changed service providers on you. Ting may have used a different service provider. He's like, it's just I guess, kind of a home system that it works off of, kind of like Verizon. I'm trying to think if it's ever been anyone else. It's like I've never had it before we lived in Delphi. So I'm pretty sure I always got my phone when I worked at Walmart. So I'd get my service plans through them. And because I got a discount through them. So then Mullins is like, well, what I like to do is if I'd like to have the opportunity to look at your phone and examine some of the data on it. Really like to get the phone that you had back then if you think that it's in a closet somewhere in the house. He's like, he's like, yeah. He's like, actually, I don't know. I mean, my wife, when she comes home, she'll know. If we have it, she'll know exactly where it's at. And Mullins is like, okay, all right. So if that's okay with you, she's like, I thought that she recycled them, but she may not have. He's like, well, we can start off with the phone you have right there, and we can extract the data from that if it's okay with you. And then he basically reads him a form. It's basically a search warrant. He's like, it's a consent to search. So he reads through the form with them. And then he asks, is your phone, does it open with a face or pattern or is it passcode or what? He's like, and Rick's like, it's like a finger thing. He's like, oh, so it's biometrics. He's like, no, there's a code too. And then like this, so Rick is finally getting like, so this is when Rick is like, okay, well, he seems a little tentative for a second. He's like, Mullen's like, you have some questions? I want to try to answer them. He's like, and this is where it happens. So we're like an hour in, and Rick's like, I don't know. It's just sounding more like he's like, I'm not going to be somebody that's a fall guy. And so Mullen's like, so everybody's ears perk up. Like as soon as that leaves his mouth, that's the first time he says anything. Rick's getting the sense. Rick's not a stupid guy. He can smell it. He can smell it coming. He's like, and Mullen's like, well, here's our situation. And then Rick's like, because basically we're talking, he's like, and like Mullen's like, I want to help you understand. He's like, and Rick's like, I thought that you were trying to find, he's like, what I might have that might be helpful, but, and like they're all talking at the same time. So my notes like suck here. And like I have to try to figure out like who I want to like listen to, and I want to listen to Rick, but I also want to listen to them. So like Mullins is like, everyone that we talk to, we're trying to eliminate them from any suspicion of being involved in the case. Rick's like, sure. It's like, I get that. And he's what we want to try to do is get as much info together to be able to show, that somebody's not involved. And like Rick's like, sure, I get that. And Rick is not upset at this point. Like he's not angry. I want to be clear about this. Like he's not getting defensive. He's not getting reared. He's like, I'm getting the vibe that you fucking guys are looking at me like I did this. Like this, like that. And he's exactly like that. He's not like, this is bull, he's not getting aggressive. And then he's like, I get that. He's like, it just honestly amazes me that we're even talking. I mean, it's been so long. And he's like, I haven't thought about that this much. And he's like, I don't want to be somebody's fall guy. And it seems like that we're trying to make pieces of a puzzle fit somewhere where they don't fit so we can close this thing. This is what Rick's saying. He's like, and I'm not saying I'm not questioning your integrity. That's not what I'm saying. He's like, I mean, I guess that's just where I'm at. He's like, this doesn't seem like a simple conversation we're having. It seems more like you think that I might have done it. And Mullins is like, I understand what you're saying. I completely get what you're saying and how I would feel from your point of view. And Rick's like, yeah. He's like, but our situation, what we're trying to do is to be able to show what we're doing by taking a look at everything. And and make sure what you're saying is true. And then he's like, look, we've looked at Mr. So he's like, look, we want to be able to say, look, we looked at Mr. Allen and he's not our guy. We looked at it. We looked at him because we looked at his phone. And I was going to ask you something else too, by the way. He said, would we be able to look at your car? So he's like, Rick's telling him, he's like, you fucking guys are like starting to point the finger. Like I'm getting the distinct impression that you now think that I'm the fucking guy who killed the girl.
I think that you think that and now you want to see my car. All right.
Your situation for you would be concurrently improved if I had $200 in my back pocket. He's like, so he wants to look at their car. He's like, also with your permission, we'd like to look at your house as well. So we want to look at your phone. Like while we're talking about all the things we want to look at, these are the things we want to look at.
I also need this.
So then he's like, all these things, Mullins, like all these things are very, very important to us. Yeah. And Rick's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. If you get to the point where you think that I need to be further investigated, then you need to go get a warrant and do it. That's fine. But I'm not going to have somebody going through my house and everything. And he's like, and Mullins is like, sure. He's like, I just want to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Rick's like, I guess I'm starting to feel more like I'm your main lead or something here. And I'm not going to do that. And he's like, he's like, but we're so far into this. And he's like, I'm sure you'll see the news. You'll see the state police are just doing their thing. He's like, oh yeah, it's been a great while. Yeah. He's like, and he's like, and he's talking about the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, and he's got an investigator at the prosecutor's office, and we decided to pick through everything from the very beginning again. So they're trying to explain how they got back to him. And he's like, we're talking to everybody that was out there that day. Rick's like, sure. Okay. And he's like, we're just crossing T's and dotting I's. So he's like, so there's no fall guys. That's not what we're trying to do here. And Rick's like, Alan's like, I'm not trying to, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to impugn your integrity or, I'm not trying to question your integrity. It's like at this point, I think you might actually, it's like what I'm feeling is at this point that you think that I might have actually have done this. And if you want to go get a warrant, you want to search my house and my car, or my orifices or whatever, that's fine. I don't mind you looking at my phone or whatever. And Mullins is like, okay. He's like, Mullins is like, I understand completely. I guess my point is, and so there's a lot of like just going back and forth here. Like Like no one's letting each other finishing sentences. He's like, yeah, he's like, I'm not gonna have the police out going through my house and stuff. That's just not. He's like news leaks and somebody here, and I just don't need that kind of shit. And like Mullins is like, we're trying to keep this very discreet because we understand that. And then Rick's like, sure, sure. And he's like, he's like, and it'll be like, he's like, it was like, I came and picked you up in my Buick. It wasn't even like a cop car. Like, no one's gonna know. Like, because Rick said a couple of times during the interviews, like, I actually care about like what people think about me, and like I get paranoid about it. Like, I'll think that people are thinking shit about me that they're not even thinking, but I'm thinking that they are thinking it about me. He's like I'm like I care what people think about me, So he's like, so Mullins is like, all right, well, and can you help us? So they kind of so like Mullins circles back. He's like, so you're gonna let us look at that phone? And like Rick's like, sure. He's like, great, and you'll help us get the other phone too. He's like, I'll see if I can find it. And then he says, all right, so let me. So they go back to the form, and then and he's like, what kind of phone do you have? And he's like, it's a Google or something, Google Pixel. He says, that's a black phone. And then he gives him the code. And then Rick signs the form. Or wait, no, I don't think he does sign the form. He's like, you know what?
I'm going to talk to my wife.
He's like, let me talk to my wife before I do anything. And Mullen says, okay. He's like, I don't want to do this because like I'm cool with it, but at the same time, like I don't want her to get pissed off at me. He's like, I don't know. He's like, he's like, we watch TV shows and stuff, and like, I don't want to be associated with this thing, obviously, more than anybody else does. And I'm no and I'm not an angel of a person. He's like, I mean, like, I'm like anybody else. And he's like, I just don't want. He's like, maybe I don't want you to look at every website that I've ever visited. He's like, and Mullins is like, I completely understand. It's like, so I think I'm gonna go talk to my wife and see if she's cool with it, and then we'll do it. And then Um, and then I think she's got Liggett leaves the room, and he says, "We're just," in the Mullins is like, "We're just trying to get these things taken care of." And he's like, "I get that, but I guess that's not like I'm not trying to question anybody's integrity." He's like, I just know that it's at the point where I mean that you want closure on this case. You want closure for a family. And he's like, and
I'm not going to be it.
and
I'm
and
not the one.
And Rick's like, I don't know you from Adam. It's like, you're telling me trust you and all this shit, and you're a good guy. And he's like, but I don't know you from a fucking hole in the ground, bro. And he's like, you also can't say that it's never happened. We're pieces where we find a piece that's close to fitting, but then we make it fit. And he's like, I don't want to be a fall guy. And then he's like, and then Liggett's like, I just want to see. That's why we came to see you. And he's like, we're just like, we're starting from the beginning again. It's basically tip 74. And Rick's like, okay. And like Liggett's like, that's why we're here. We're starting from the beginning. It's like, you're like, we're not trying to make you the fall guy. And Rick's like, oh, he's like, I don't think you're coming after me. It's just not that. He's like, and Mullins is like, you've been completely honest with us, with the information. You can see it right there. Mr. Allen was on the trail between 3:30 and 15 or 13:30 and 15:30. And Rick's like, that's and Mullins is like, that's one. He's like, I don't think that. He's like, you know what time that was? He's like, I don't think I was out there that late. He's like, I don't know what I told him that day, but I know I wasn't out there till 3:30 or so. Yeah, it's like it's 15:30 is 3:30. He's like, so that would be around like from 1:30 till 3:30. He's like, no, I'm saying when I left. And he's like, I left at 1:30 would have been more like it. And he's like, not that I've gotten there. The only reason I remember because I know when I left my mom's around 11 o'clock or so because they were getting ready to do lunch. And I wasn't doing the lunch thing. I just went home. I was going to go home to watch the stock market. Thought it was a nice day. Thought I'd go take a walk on the trail before I did. So and so then Liggett's like, yeah, so the things we're asking you is nothing any different than we ask anybody else. Had brown hair. Like, I don't even know why Rick said that at that point. Like, I don't know what that meant. So he's like, you asked about that. Vehicles parked at the hybrid trailhead. I mean, it wasn't, he's like, the farmer's pull off is where I seen the vehicles. And then he's like, so he got you and you had the information off my cell phone. Like, he gave him the cell. And then Mullins is like, yeah, that's why we'd really like to have that cell phone in particular. And he said, but then again, that's why we're here. And Rick's like, sure, I get that. He's like, that's honestly, he's like, that's honestly what I thought this was. And I mean, there's nothing else that I can really think of. But as far as searching my house and my phones, and then Mullen's like, well, I just want to let you know that those things have been very helpful for us. Okay. It's not necessarily what I'm asking you right now that we do that. And he's like, we want to, like, we're trying to eliminate people. Like some of these things, I wasn't like, it was really hard for me to tell if it was Liggett or Mullins talking, to be honest with you. It seemed like Mullins was doing most of the talking. So, and like, Liggett would chime in occasionally. So then, like Rick's like, I guess when you say progress, it's like we're still where we were. Like I'm not saying you haven't made any progress, but it seems like you haven't made any progress. And then like Mullins is like, no, 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 no. And then Rick's like, you obviously have. I'm just saying that we're here because we haven't found the guy that did this. And I'm not going to turn into that guy. I'm not, I'm not going to. I just don't want to become the target of something because, like I said, we watch Dateline every week. We watch everything, and it's one of those things. I mean, there's nothing that's going to tie me to it. I'm not worried about that. I like to have people come and start searching my home and stuff. I mean, my wife doesn't even know I'm here talking to people. So, I mean, I can look for the phone, I'll talk to her. And I mean, obviously, anytime that you feel you need information quicker, I know you can get it. It's not like you can't get it if you want it. I'm not an idiot. And like, what information would that be? He's like, searching my house or searching my car. Mullins is like, all right. And he's like, well, again, the reason I said search your house and your car would be able to say to someone, look, we actually took care of all this information. We know for sure. Um, you know, that's what we found. There was nothing. That gives us the answer we need for a particular situation we're dealing with. And then Rick's like, all right, sure. And then Mullins is like, you brought up several times wanting to be able to resolve the case. What we want to be able to do is to find the person. And Rick's like, absolutely. And Rick's like, he's like, we're not trying and then Rick's like, that's what I mean. We're not trying to put anybody in a box, Mullen says. So Alan says, like, I'm not trying to, I'm not saying you just want to label. And then Rick, he's like, I had nothing to do with it. I haven't been a part of this investigation. I mean, I have with, I get it. He's like, you questioned me. It's a horrible thing. And I don't want to be any more involved in this than I have to be. If I thought I had something useful, by all means, I'd give you anything I had, but I don't know what's going to be useful to you. And then Mullins is like, well, that's one of the reasons we asked for the phone is to be able to nail down that aspect of it. And then Rick's like, sure. Not like, sure. It's like, sure. Okay. And also, it'd be very important for us to be able to look at your car when somebody does something like this, that's involved with something like this. There might be traces of biological information and data or substances that were left behind inside a vehicle. Rick's like, okay. He's like, does that make sense? So that would be helpful for us to be able to look at your car to be able to determine if there's anything like that in it forensically. Forensically means that we'd have a close examination of the car. Rick's like, I know that. He's like, we want to be able to say we looked at Rick. We looked at his car. There's nothing in his car. Like, I think Liggett said that. And then he's like, yeah. Rick's like, I mean, this is out of left field, guys. I mean, I want to talk to my wife before I do anything. I mean, this affects her as much as it affects me. And I know you guys don't talk to people. I don't hear a bunch of rumors out there, but I mean, I don't want anybody knowing that I talk to you guys. Mullins is like, oh, I understand. And then Liggett's like, yeah, we wouldn't do that. And Rick's like, sure, okay. And then he's like, we don't just go out and randomly talk to people about stuff like this. And like Rick's like, sure, I understand. So Mullen circles back again. He's like, so with the phone, you want to take some time and more time to think about it? A couple of things that I wanted to ask you about. And then he asks if they can step out. So now they step out of the room and they're going to observe Rick just sitting in there. It's a move, right? They always do it. See how you're going to act, see what you're going to do. Are you fidgeting? Are you rocking back and forth? Like, what do you like? And Rick does none of that shit. He's just like sitting there, like kind of looks at his phone, puts it down. Like for 5 minutes, they got him sitting there and they're obviously out observing him. So then they come back in and Mullins is like, hey, how you doing? He's like, I do want to kind of show you some stuff that we think is important. And, we want your cooperation. And one of the things that you told us is that you have driven out there in your car and that you think that you drove out there in your car. And we have a picture of your car and it shows that it was going out to the trails that day. Okay. And now one of the important things for us is to help us understand exactly where you were that day. What was going on? You've already told us that you were out there. And that's really, really important. Rick's like, sure. And we're verifying from you. Okay. So with that, we want you to try to help us work through this whole thing. I'm going to be completely honest with you. We've been able to talk to your wife. We've talked to your daughter already. While this is all happening, Rick's like, okay. We've had time to do all that. Rick's like, sure. And we've heard that you've had some issues. Even had at one point put a gun in your mouth and that you were going to do something to yourself, maybe. Rick's like, okay. It's like 3 years or so. He's like, yes. And he's like, there's a lot here that we need to get clarified. As you well know, we have pictures of an individual that was on the bridge, and some degree, you described that individual as wearing, yourself wearing blue jeans. Rick's like, yeah. The jacket, it's of the same color. Described a hat. It's hard to see the shoes, but they look kind of brown. Okay, and this is a picture that was taken with the phone with one of the girls. Okay, and Rick's like, okay, I understand that. He's like, and this is like the line that people are always like, yeah, that part where they went around his fucking back and talked to Kathy and his daughter Brittany is what really pissed him off. That's where he gets pissed. That's where this thing permanently turns for Rick Allen. Like, he's done. At this point, he knows it's unequivocal in his mind that they are trying to fucking put this on him. And I like, just if like, think of it from both sides. Like, so what do you guys think if you're the guy? What would be like if they've made that move right there and you're the guy and you're like in there and you're cool as a cucumber and then they drop that bomb on you. Like, where's your head going to be at? Because Rick Allen's head stays right where it was. Like, he doesn't lose his shit. Still doesn't lose his shit. Still does not lose his shit, even after they told him that we were bullshitting you. We've already talked to Kathy. We've already talked to your daughter. They told us, like Kathy told us, you put a gun in your mouth, and we're talking about killing yourself like 3 years ago. So, but this is the line that people have talked about. So Rick says, because they're talking about the pictures, they say, and he's like, this is a picture that was taken with a phone of one of the girls, okay? And Rick's like, I understand that. And he says, and the question needs to be, and he points at the bridge guy. He's like, is that you? Is that you?
And I'd like to say we don't know what version of the picture they showed him. They could have showed him the real first super fuzzy picture where you can't tell.
It looks like the one, like I could not see on the, and they had it on the big screen, but you couldn't see it. So this is what Rick Allen's response was, and like this is one that I was very careful, and like I think everybody in that room was very careful to write down. He's like, if it was taken with the girl's phone, and that is absolutely, I mean, it's not me because I've never met the girls before. So even if I thought it looked like me, if it was taken with the girl's phone, there's no way it could have been me because I've never met them. I've never seen them. And so Mullins is like, so that's where we're at. And then Rick's like, so we'll just stop there. Like, now I'm done. Like, now I'm fucking done. And Mullins like, he's like, okay. And then Rick's like, as far as my psychological well-being, he's like, it's been something that I've been dealing with for years. For years. It's not something new. It's not something because I went out and killed girls. Now I've got psychological problems. If I had issues, did I stick a gun in my mouth? Did I know how a gun works? I wasn't going to shoot myself. I was not going to shoot myself that night. It was probably a cry for help. You've obviously talked to my wife. So is that what this is? But I know that you haven't talked to anybody that knows me and has been around me. My family, not my family, that thinks that I may have been involved with this. They wouldn't believe it. And then he's like, but this image, this person right here, he's wearing like a Carhartt jacket, just like you told us. And Rick's like, okay. He's wearing the same clothing that you just told us. We just need to know what happened. Why? Rick's like, sure. I mean, I said I was wearing blue jeans. Now I think blue jeans is a pretty common thing that people wear. Mullins like, sure. And I said that I was probably wearing a black or blue coat. It could have been a Carhartt, a zip up with a hoodie. I've had black ones. I've had a blue one or a blue one, a black one. Like I said, I guess he's like, what I told you I was wearing and saying, that's me. And it's, are you like, and you're serious? You literally want me? You want me to like you? You want me to say that that's my car? We've looked at it. He's like, we've looked at your car. It matches everything. That is your car. Rick's like, okay. Well, I'm saying that picture, it's like, and then like Liggett pipes in. He's like, yeah, there's zero doubt. Rick's like, okay, that's you and the car. Yes, Liggett says. He's like, I don't even. It's like, okay, that's fine. He's like, we're just showing you what we have and why we need to eliminate you.
So they're not even letting him say that car doesn't look like my car.
He's like, well, and like Rick's like, well, sure. And Rick still has not lost his shit. He's still not screaming and yelling. He's still like this back and forth thing was insane to me. He's like, if you want to arrest me, that's fine. He's like, and Mullins is like, here's what I want to say to you at this point. We have a lot of information here that we need clarification. Rick's like, sure. And he's like, well, and that's exactly what we're talking to you. And we're just like, well, that's fine. And what we want to do is to be able to look at your cell phone, take a look at the data, help us out. That would be great. We've already talked to your employer. And we already know, we haven't told them about what we know about this. We haven't said anything, but they say you're a nice guy. And I believe you're a nice guy. And Rick's like, oh, okay. He's like, I mean, let me paint a picture for you. Rick's like, okay. So, we went to your house, you let us in. Like that happened. You got a job to do, like Rick says, and I get that. And he's like, went to your house, you sat down here, you know? And he's like, and we're having a conversation. And we went to your house this morning. And what we did was we knocked on your door. You let us inside. We had a nice conversation. That's great. That's really positive. Of course it is, Rick says. He's like, you even came here to the center and drove down. You rode in the car with us. Alan's like, yeah. And we had a chance to sit down and talk. And you're not a fellow. I mean, you're not a fellow. I don't think that you're a mean fellow. I don't think you're the kind of guy that would go out and do something malicious to somebody. So a lot of what we're trying to figure out here today is what's going on here. Um, so Rick's like, I'm trying to say, just say that is my car. I told you I could have been driving that car. It's like your car. He's like, sure. It's like, yeah, that's right. He's like, I don't know what it is that you're. He's like, but this just seems to have taken a turn. You're sitting here and you're talking to me, asking me things, and I get that. But now it's turning into, and then Liggett pipes in and he says, most people have wanted to be eliminated from this. And Rick's like, well, sure. He's like, I don't want to be included to begin with. So until the point that you have something that tells me or that tells you that I did this and you want to subpoena or arrest me or something, I got nothing to worry about. So I'm not real concerned here, but your attitudes towards me have definitely changed. And I don't like the fact that it feels like I'm being interrogated. And soon you're going to tell me that you've already talked to my wife and my daughter and stuff. Like, how straightforward is that? And then he says, so like Mullen's like, so let's turn everything around then. Tell me what you would do differently if you were in our situation and you had this information. How would you react? What would you do? You do the same thing that we're doing right now. And what information is it that you have? And he's like, we have this. You have that I was out there. I told you that from the very beginning. I was out there. Yes, you did. I didn't hide it. He's like, did you see this guy? Points at the picture, bridge guy picture. He's like, I told you I seen the only person that I clearly remember seeing. Um, and this isn't from the day. He's like, I mean, this is the next day. The only people or person that came into my mind were those three girls that I seen.
What do you mean this is the next day? The
He's like,
next
whenever he went in and talked to him,
Oh,
whenever he like it was like the 18th actually, so it was like 5 days later. But like he went to the sheriff's office and talked to him, and then they got a hold of him. Mullins is like, Rick, we're not upset with you, we're mad at you or anything like that. We're just trying to get to the bottom of this. And then he's like, we're simply trying to get to the truth. And then Rick's like, sure. And on the other side of things, if I thought that I had something that was going to help you, that would, that uh what what do I have that's going to help you? Well, he's like, we have some questions that we could go through if you don't mind. And then Rick's like, I think we're done. And then so he says right there, I think we're done. So the question then becomes, has Rick terminated the interview? Now, I mean, he certainly hasn't affirmatively asserted his fifth, and he certainly hasn't firmly asserted his right to counsel. But it's like, and this again, this goes, but like at this point, the time for litigating this in terms of suppressing it is over. And they had filed the motion to suppress this statement and the other one, and then they decided that they thought that it was more helpful than it hurt, I guess. And I think that it is. Like I watched this thing, and after this thing I was like, this dude is innocent. Like that's what like my gut and my brain were telling me after I watched it. But that's like, but I'm always looking through a defense attorney's lens. But everything, every fiber of my being, in terms of watching his responses and watching how he was acting and listening to what he was saying, rang true to me. Like I just never got the impression that Rick Allen was being slippery. Like he just came across as a guy who realized that after 5 years and that nobody had talked to him, and then all of a sudden they're on him and they think he's the fucking guy. He like figured it out halfway into this interview. I mean, he's a pretty bright guy. Like he sniffed it out that they were coming at him and that they liked him for it before they showed him the shit. Before they told him that they talked to Kathy. Like he figured it out all the way back early on when he said, "I'm not going to be a fall guy on this shit." You know? So I mean, like, what's the counter argument there? That he is trying to get in front of it right away? I don't think he sounds anything like Bridge Guy, like nothing like it. And he's got a little bit of he's got a like a twang, a little bit of a twang. So how long? Oh my god, we're 2 hours and 40 in and I'm still on the first goddamn interview. Jeez. Y'all gotta tell me to speed up, people. I gotta be in bed. I gotta get up for court. Ugh. Oh my, where's Allison? Like, where is she? She keeps dipping out. Okay. And she's missing all this. All right. So he's like, you went, you talked to my daughter and my wife, who knows who else, and then like it's like, you want me to ask who was down the hill from this to the person who was, and Rick's like, who, what? Down the hill to kill the girls. Rick's like, down the hill? It's like, you probably weren't the guy that did this crime, is what Liggett says. Did somebody down the hill kill those girls? Who else was involved? Rick's like, down what hill? He's like, do you know? Like, and then Mullins is like, do you know a Tony Klein? Rick's like, Tony Klein? I don't know. All right. So I like, and at that point, that's pretty much like the end of the interview. And then he gets like when Rick gets up, he calls him an asshole. And that was like it. So all right. Um all right. So do you guys want to do the second one? Because like the way I feel about the second one is that um like we went through a lot of it with the Holman interview. So it's like, do you guys want to hear like I don't think I have time to do the second interview and the whole thing of confessions today. So what do you guys think? All right, so I'm gonna jump to the confessions, and what I'll do, I'll go through.
Wait a minute. Before you jump to the confessions, at least go to the part any words about the keepsake box?
All right.
Because on your notes, it's pretty early on. It's on, let's see.
Let me see. All right, hold on.
And go to the part where Kathy Allen's in the room.
That's the second interview.
I know, that's what I'm talking about. Those are the things that I think you should do on the second interview before you jump over to the but right before that, uh, where's the part? Let's see. Okay, so it's on page 14 of yours, and it's right before they start talking about the mushrooms and stuff. It's like they're talking about the round, and he keeps saying
Wait, is that in the second one though?
all the second one. Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now, right?
Oh, all right. Okay.
So on page 14 of yours, it gets to the keepsake box. They ask the reason why did we find this round in your keepsake box? And then Kathy Allen comes into the room. So let's do all that. And they mention Ron Logan.
That's a big ass looking mosquito. All right, so let me see.
It's pretty deep in.
It is deep in.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I gotta go find it.
It's shortly before the lunch break
Okay. Okay.
and before the mushroom talk.
Okay. So I've got. All right. So, because like 60% of the interview with Holman is them arguing, like him repeatedly asking him about the round.
Right, I know. And his DNA's on the round, and it's like I didn't get it. My round wasn't there. My round wasn't there. It's not possible. Got
Okay.
it.
So he says, all right, wait. Let me compare notes here.
It's before he starts talking
No,
about
I
the
found
anger
it.
issues, depression.
Yeah, I
Okay.
found it in mine.
Well, yeah.
Let me look in these too.
We're gonna hear these 21 tonight, babe, so
All
you
right.
can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go through them quickly, like instead of like going through like um okay. Okay, here's the keepsake box. Okay. So he's like, there's no way possible that a bullet from my gun ended up in the murder scene. And he's like, I've got nothing to get out in front of because, like, Holman's like, you're trying to get out in front of this. He's like, you guys are trying to trick me into doing something. He's like, I don't know how I can make this any clearer. And then so Holman says, why did you have the bullet in the keepsake box? He's like, I don't know. He's like, you wouldn't let her go. He's like, you wouldn't let her go on the search party. So like it's gotten really bad. And then he's like that's all I have on it. That's
Wait,
like all.
your notes say, so is there a reason we found this round in this keepsake box? And your notes say you did it or you didn't. And then it goes into here's my theory. Maybe something, something, and then they start talking about anger issues and depression. And her notes say, I don't know.
Hers say, okay, wait.
I
Because I'm right where like she didn't put much about the
Like,
keepsake
I have
box.
Kathy something. Is that if that was your daughter out there, does she write anything about that?
Yeah, well, he said that like when he was walking out the door.
Well, but that's right before it says, "So is there a reason we found this bullet in your keepsake box?"
Like that's all he taught. Like there was not much. Like that was not a long
Alright, well,
conversation.
it wasn't long in your notes, but one person's notes said, "You did or you did it or you didn't," and her notes say, "I don't know."
It says
Mm,
it. I'm trying to see.
and you've got no independent recollection of how he responded.
Okay, wait a second here. Like it's like I did not murder the two little girls. I don't know where you got that bullet, but it didn't come from my gun. I don't. It didn't come from my gun. He's like, go ahead and kill me. I don't give a fuck. You'll make my wife rich. He's like, I never contacted Abby and Libby. I never even met them. And then it's like, I don't know how I rounded up at a murder scene. I wasn't. No one saw me on video. Your conscience is trying to tell you something. He's like, I'm not going to tell you I did something I didn't do. Where and then he's like, where's this guy saying I did something? Because if there's a guy that's saying that I did something with them, they're fucking crazy. So you're gonna arrest me, do it. He's like, why did you have the bullet in the keepsake box? He says, I don't know.
And again, your notes said either you
All
did
my notes that I'm looking at my notes.
your notes doesn't say I don't know. I'm looking at them.
I
It
know
says
I'm
you
reading.
did it or you didn't.
Wait, you did it like, but they're talking about the crime, not the bullet in the box.
Where the hell on your notes do you see the words "I don't know" after the
I
keepsake?
read that from the other person's notes.
That's what I'm saying, and so what you're saying is in your notes where it says you did it, it wasn't an answer to is there a reason we found a round in your keepsake box?
Yeah,
Alright.
what I'm trying to tell you is no matter what, I don't care what, like if somebody else picks something up, then somebody else picks something up. I didn't get it. You know what I mean? Like the keepsake box was not an extended conversation part of the interview. You know what I
Alright, so
mean?
I'm
It's
gonna
like
go with his response was, "I don't know," not "You did it or you didn't." Alright.
I don't even know if the I don't know in these notes is referring to the keepsake box.
Mm. Alright, then go to Kathy Allen, it's right below what about Ron Logan? That's right after that too.
Okay. So is there a reason we found the round in the keepsake box? And then yeah, see, like I was like this, like I was really watching the interview. Like that's why my notes are very sketchy there.
Alright, well then and like a page and a half later,
But
Kathy Allen
then
comes in the room.
he gives his whole theory. Holman gives his he's like, here's my theory. Maybe you went out there, somebody set it up for you, maybe not, I don't know. You've got anger issues, you got depression, maybe one of the girls said or did something and you weren't originally out there to kill them and then they pissed you off and it's like, okay, so it says Ron Logan. Do you know Ron Logan? And he says no. And that was it for Ron Logan.
Alright, so then go down to Kathy Allen, should be about a little bit down below when she comes into the room.
All right. So then I'm gonna tell you right now, I could not hear anything that Kathy was saying.
Well, check the other person's notes.
Okay.
That's all we need to
No,
hear.
no one could. Like she was like barely audible.
Alright.
But what I can tell you definitively is that they had worked Kathy very hard outside of the room. So that by the time that she came in that room, she had serious concerns about whether or not her husband was a murderer two
Right.
times over. Okay. 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 So Kathy, All right, so this is what she has. She says, "It's all right, baby." That's what Rick says. It's gonna be all right. He's like, "I can't explain it. Something that I don't understand." He's like, "You know me. You know this isn't something I could do. They really think I did this, and they want me to believe it. I'm not going to say something that isn't true. I didn't help anyone. I know you know me. I don't know how to explain something that isn't possible. I've never even seen these girls. They're not going to get away with this. This is exactly what I would never want for you. I'm sorry for you're having to go through this. I'm sorry I'm having to go through this. They're trying to talk to me about depression and anxiety and shit. And I'm not going to admit to something I didn't do. I don't care what they do to me. They want me, they want you to think that I've done it. You know, I'd never do something like this or be involved with something like this. And then he says, tell them that you want an attorney. They have to let you go. Because I think Kathy said something like she was worried about like it coming back on her a little bit. Like she said something to that effect. And then Kathy says, how did the bullet from your gun get out there? And he's like, I don't know. He's like they're asking me to explain. It's like they're trying to get him to explain like how do you disprove a negative?
Wait, that's what he said, or that's what you're telling me?
That's what I'm saying. Like
No,
how can
I get it, right. He's like he said that. How do I explain something that's not possible?
right. Like how do I give you an answer for something that didn't happen? Like that I know isn't possible. You know, short of saying you fucking planted it or, you know, because like that's where I was saying, like when Holman's using the read technique, that's where he's coming in saying, all right, man, look, this, you know, it's like he gives them outs.
So
He
so
dangles these little outs in front of him.
this is the fucking craziest thing. You gotta keep reading those notes. Someone is saying that Kathy said, "But you told me you didn't go out on the bridge," which is just stupid. Kathy's the one that told him to call
Wait, who do you mean someone saying that
because
Kathy
it's
said
those
didn't?
who shall not be named. So, those arms of the prosecution that get on
Wait,
the
they're
soapbox.
saying that Kathy said that you said I didn't go out to the bridge?
"But you told me you didn't go out on the bridge."
Yeah, I read the notes. Like I'm to the end of Kathy on both of them. I did not hear that, dude. Are they seriously just making shit up? Is that
I've
like
heard
seriously what's happening?
I mean, I'm not listening to their nonsense, but people are saying that I mean, it's like they're watching a different trial.
I mean, for real though. Like, really? Is that like a thing that they're doing? Actually saying that?
What do you mean? They made up that all this stuff about you, why would it be any different?
But this is like that's one thing. This is a trial, and like the reality is, like the one thing that I love that Gull did is that she locked these jurors down. All the noise that's going on out here, god damn, this is a huge. I don't even know if it's a mosquito. It's a big flying looking mosquito thing. Like they're like what we're saying out here in the world is not going to have any effect. This is not one of those trials that we've been seeing recently where people are like watching shit on YouTube,
Right.
you know? So it's like like
And to tell you the truth, you know, it's probably good she did this because there's no way that I would believe in a million years that all the witnesses and all the cops weren't really listening to everything out on YouTube before they testified. I mean, jurors were, oh yeah, listening to people's testimony and stuff. But they can still do that by listening to us, except not the jurors. So
yeah, all right. So you want me so I can go into a little more detail about that tomorrow, like a little bit more about Holman.
yeah, I'm dying to hear the confession stuff. The
You know, we got to hear the
confession.
confession shit. All right, so Gallipoos is the first guy who comes on who's the warden, and essentially Like he just has the first confession, which is um that Rick had sent a kite or a request to interview or a request to speak. Um and that he says
I wanna tell you what happened, for the girl's
yeah,
family.
requested interview. He's like, like, and it says, I'm ready to officially confess to killing Abby and Libby, and I hope I get the opportunity to apologize to the families. So that's the first one. Then Rosie does a cross. Like Rosie's cross was always kind of like kept in line with one another. They're always
And
kind of
do you have
like
the date of that Skype?
Skype.
I mean, kite, sorry.
Uh 3/5/23.
3-5.
Yeah, like, and don't start grilling me on dates because when Nick starts going through it, he goes it through it so fast with the guards. Like there'll be because he'll have like a packet from one guard from like where they've collated all of their suicide companion work like logs. So basically every 15 minutes they would make an observation if he said anything. So they like consolidated it all into like a packet. So he'd be like, okay, on whatever date at this time, at whatever date on this time, and then he'd say, what did he say? And then they'd read it on these watch sheets. So and I was trying my best to write the dates down, but like there's no way that anybody got all those dates. It's just too fast. Like even superior note takers, they could not have gotten them all. Um, okay. Okay, so Gallipo was the first, and that was the only one he had. And then Rosie went in him pretty hard. Many of the questions were relating to the conditions of confinement. Gallipo, who no longer works there, um, uh, wait, what is this fucking person talking about? Self-destructive as shit. What is this person insane? Is that what I'm on? Yeah, right. I haven't had a drink in 5 years, weirdo. Um, trying to go through like two notebooks here. Like, how did that thing not get blocked? Like, it's so weird. All right. All right. So Rosie's Cross is like literally all about the um again the conditions, the bed being on the floor and it's a frame bolted to the floor a couple inches, no privacy. Like remember Rosie's going to be establishing that it's the conditions of his confinement that are akin to an extended interrogation that they broke him down mentally. um that's it. So like I don't know. Like but they're gonna have their own experts on. Okay. So then I'm gonna start skipping right to where the confessions are. So witness two was a guy named Ethan Drang, Drang. He his confession was another one from 4/5/23. This is around 8:45, 8:46 in the morning, and like, oh, the prison system cured my depression and anxiety. And then he slipped a letter under the door. And then the letter, I think, contained the thing to Gallipo, which is I hope I get the opportunity to confess to killing Abby and Libby and apologize to the families. So that's the one that somebody leaked that I saw out in the world out there. Um
I'm I'm putting Scarlett to bed, but I just came down to take down that comment. I have no idea who put it up there and why it was still sitting there for so long.
Which comment?
The rehab comment, which makes 0 sense.
I don't like what the hell. It's clearly a weirdo.
All right, I'll be back. I gotta lay with Scarlett for a minute.
Oh, okay.
I'm listening,
I'm
though.
I'm gonna probably be off. So did you
All
hear the
right.
first one? Okay, so that's what I consider to be the second one. Um, so the third witness is this Michael Clemens, and he's another. All of these guys are correctional officers. They are all suicide companions. They are all tasked with like doing 15-minute updates on whatever they see or hear from Richard Allen. And then um he's got a few of them with this guy. It on 4/7 of 23, he says, um, he says, God, I am so glad that nobody gave up on me when I killed Abby and Libby. Confession 4 at 8:01. I killed Abby and Libby all by myself. Nobody helped me. And now these are all written by the guards that they are saying that they heard them say. Okay. And then at 8:03, he says, I'm not crazy. I'm only acting like I'm crazy. And that becomes a theme with every single one of these guards. And it's like it's all part and parcel of what's going on with this thing, where just the way that they went about the interrogations using the Reed technique, and in my estimation, before I keep going with the confessions, this is how this thing shook out. Because after the thing that we just heard with Mullen and Liggett, and then into the Holman interview on the 26th, the day he gets arrested, they know after two lengthy interviews, that Rick Allen is not going to cave. And what they also know, and we heard Holman say it, is that they think that they might have enough for probable cause, so they're going to go for it with the hope that down the road, after post arrest, they're gonna gather more evidence about him. When they finally get into his phone and all of his devices, they're gonna find the smoking gun. So they realized at that point, after both of those interviews, that after applying the Reed technique, and Holman really put it on thick, that they were not going to crack Richard Allen into saying something against his own interests. He was not going to do it. So, like, I don't think, like, I know Andrea's concept is that they thought that, they took it as a challenge or a dare. I don't think that's it. I think that they realized that they were making the arrest. He knew he was making the arrest that day. I don't give a shit what he says. They went into that. We knew that he had his tool marking report. And we knew that he went into that room trying to extract a confession out of him, but that either way, that Rick Allen was not walking out of that sheriff's department that day. It was not happening. Or the Indiana State Police, wherever they were, if they were at Lafayette, I can't remember. Um, and so, but what they realized is a team, including with the prosecuting attorney, is that they're going to need to extract a confession from him. That is directly what led to the safekeeping order, which led to the ability to be able to put him in a prison. And then they started working him, and they broke him. They broke him in there. It's unequivocal. Everything about this is disgusting. Everything that has happened in this case is repugnant. Like, if you have this guy, then do it on the up and up. Like, this is their strongest evidence. This shit we're gonna read through. This is it. This is really what their case like hinges on. If he's convicted, it's not going to be on anything that they put on in the first week. It's going to be what they're putting on starting today and tomorrow. That's what's going to be convicts him. Like the jury's just not going to be able to look back or look past this many confessions of him saying, even though nothing we heard today went to any specifics. And other than the closest one to specifics is that when I get to it, he says one of them is, uh, I killed the girls with a box cutter and then I disposed of the box cutter at a dumpster at CVS. That's as close to like details as they got. But at that point, he's in custody. At that point, like pre-interview or like pre-arrest, when he has the interviews, he has no idea how the girls were killed. Like they didn't tell him that. Like that's like those are the things that they're waiting for him to say. Like all they're waiting for him to say is something about a knife. Like or slip and say, I didn't stab those girls. And they would have said, well, we didn't say anything about a knife being used, like that move. Like so, like at that point, like at this point in time, we know that a discovery box with 1,400 pages came in, which is when they were claiming that he was eating them or flushing them down the toilet or whatever he was doing. But the point being that was obviously the discovery. Obviously, as soon as he started looking through it, he would have facts that the killer would know. So I don't know how much weight the facts that only the killer would know have when you have a guy, but I don't know when he had access to them. They certainly weren't letting him keep a box of discovery in his cell all the time, I wouldn't think. But I mean, he had to have access because at some point they talk about when he finally got the box of discovery, and it was like 2 weeks after they dropped it off, which I believe was in March of 23. So those are the three statements that they got from Clemens. And then Rosie went at him. And Rosie's basic thing is like, he's hearing other inmates screaming at him and they're harassing him and they're saying, kill yourself and calling him baby killer. And that he never mentions any specific details about how the girls were killed. And that, Dr. Walla would be in a better position to evaluate his mental health. Because these guys all start saying, like they were all told that they all think that he was faking. Like this argument, I want somebody in the chat to try to help me out, to try to like explain to me how that works, because this is happening like the confessions and the psychosis are happening at the same time. Because like somebody tweeted at me today, it was like, oh, he was trying to act like he was crazy to explain the confessions. That's not how this worked. It's like he's doing all the stuff, like spreading feces all over himself, eating feces, smashing his head into a wall repeatedly until his entire head is a bruise. Like that's all happening when he's saying this. It's all happening contemporaneously. This isn't like there is that like this argument that people keep saying that he's faking. To what end? Like why is he faking it? Like I don't like if somebody can like if somebody knows what that argument is and can explain it to me in the chat, I'd really appreciate it. Um all right, so then we've got he says he's got like I took some pretty shitty notes on this one. He says with Clemens. Okay. So that was it for Clemens. And then we got Michael Roberts. Worked DOC 8 years. So 4/7 at 12:45 p.m. Dear Lord, please forgive me for molesting Abby, Libby, and Chris at 1:45. Please, dear Lord, please forgive me for molesting Abby, Libby, Kevin, and Chris. Um, and then that's at 1:45, and this is still on 470. He's like, I want to confess. I know a lot here. And then 413 at 8:15, he's like, what do I got to do? And then he's like, at 4:23, he's like, I know, or I killed Abby and Livy. My wife wasn't involved. I want to confess. On 4:26 at 5:06, can I talk? Can you listen? I killed Abby and Libby. And then he had said, and then he said, how do I prove that I'm innocent? Like, so that was something else he had said that, 3:30, why are you doing this? Do you know why I'm here? I killed Abby and Libby at 3:30 on 4:26. At 3:15 on 4:26, do I make you mad? Have I told you about my wife? I killed Abby and Libby. Should I lay down? And then Rosie came in, kind of goes through the same thing. Like again, they're asking him, because all of these guys, like I said, continue to say, that we all think that he's faking. Like we all
So
like,
it sounds to
oh,
me like he's confessing because he thinks they're gonna arrest his wife. "It's only me. It wasn't my wife. I did this. I did it alone."
a lot of it is protecting, like, or seemingly protecting Kathy. That's correct. So the Roberts is the next guy. And then he says he molested Dawn, Libby, Kevin, Abby, and Chris. He's smearing feces all over himself. And this guard says he did it for the attention. He's trying to get people to pay attention to him. I'm like, man, these guys are like insane. It's like, and I didn't understand, like, all they took like some 2-month training when they started working at the jail, and like one of their little sections was dealing with mental illness, and it's like clearly not qualified to be sitting on the stand saying that we think that, like, I think that he's faking. Why? Well, because and then coming up with some way. Like, I kept kind of wondering why Brad wasn't objecting, but I kind of get why he wasn't either, just because these guys are just coming up with some bullshit.
Well, I hope I hope I don't know Indiana's rule. I mean, they argued the motion pretrial and a motion in limine. Do they have to reassert the objection? I would have just said, "Can I have a continuing objection, pursuant to our based on the arguments in our motion in limine
Right. But
or against the yeah, our motion in limine." They made the motion.
all right, so then all right, so then, and remember, these are all the written ones. Tomorrow are the spoken ones. Those are the ones, like, these are all hearsay. These are all from guards that are claiming that this is what he said. None of this was, the only thing that was allegedly written by Rick was the one on that went to Gallipo.
What I'd like to know is when, if anybody in the chat knows when the medical examiner was deposed, because I was saying this when the medical examiner said the thing about the box cutter. Like, okay, so he added the box cutter because Rick Allen confessed to using a box cutter. So now they're going to say he knew details only the killer knew because he said he used a box cutter and the killer used a box cutter.
Wait, what?
What?
I
I
was
said,
reading through the notes because I want
it's
to
all
go
right. I
on
was
real life.
saying, I wonder if anybody knows when the medical examiner was deposed, because when he was deposed, he still was not saying it was a box cutter. So when,
Oh, he was deposed way late,
so
like,
after,
like after these.
and then at trial, all of a sudden he's saying it's a box cutter, and now they're arguing Richard Allen knew things only the killer would know because the killer used a box cutter, and Richard Allen said he used a box cutter, but the ME didn't say Richard Allen used
That's
a box
right.
cutter until Richard Allen confessed to using a box
Statements yeah, these statements predated the whole box cutter theory. All
cutter.
right, so then, like, Rosie, if there were things that were just weird, he'd get them in. Like, so again, when he's got Roberts on there, he's like, he's like, so at 128, Rick said, "I will never again smoke in my life," and he ran in place for 5 seconds, naked.
God,
And
Nanook is just crying and crying. He was fine when I was upstairs.
1:30, he says, "God, I'm sorry for wasting my time. Never smoke. I'll never cheat on my wife again or waste your time. I'm a Libra." He's rolling around on the ground. "I swear I've never cheated on a cigarette. Thought I was eating pizza." He's just saying crazy shit.
That sounds like
So
somebody trying to get God to help him out of this mess. I
so
won't
James
smoke, I won't do
Early,
this.
yeah. I mean, James Early, 4/8 at 4:33 p.m. I'm ready to confess. I swear to God, I killed Abby and Libby. 5/1, 8:50 a.m. I want to confess to the warden and Dr. Walla. Um, and then like Rosie goes at this guy. He's like, it's the first time he's ever had a safekeeper like this. Like he's never, like no one's ever had like a safekeeper at in this in the dungeon, the hole. He's in the worst of the worst. He's in the absolute worst of the like this is like I want to spend a lot of time on this. We're like I'm gonna kind of whip through this, but I'm disgusted by what's happening in this case, like beyond disgust. Like this is like some prisoner of war shit because they like when Walla gets on there and she's gonna explain again that like the protocol is like 1 or 2 days. Like this place where he's being kept is for people that are suicidal for a couple of days or that they can't control for a couple of days. And at that point, they put him in here. No one gets left in here for 1 month, 2 months, let alone 13 months. They left him in this solitary segregation, no human contact with anybody, and they're trying to make it sound normal. It's like everybody that's sitting in that courtroom that thinks that this is okay. I can't relate to them as human beings. Like anybody who thinks that this kind of treatment is humane, no matter what they have done, is just devoid of any kind of compassion. They broke this guy. They broke him in order to extract confessions from him. It's like unequivocal. And I have like you never know how a jury's gonna come down on this shit. You just don't know. They might be like, dude, he said it, he said some kind of shit 60 times. Like I just can't overlook it. Even though I think the whole rest of the case is weak, he confessed, and you know what? Then they win. Mission accomplished. And then you have to worry about harmless error because he confessed so many times. All the shit that went wrong in the case pre-trial is going to matter not. So I don't know. Um. So then Rosie comes up. He's like 4/8/23. He says Foxtrot, Foxy Lady, and then he's trying to attempt to drink water from the toilet. And he does. And he's urinating on his bed mat. He's laying on the floor. He's mumbling.
But did they have stuff like that in March as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is March, April. Well, no, not really. March, like April, May, and June.
Well, that's what the argument is. The argument is that he didn't start behaving crazy until after he started making the confessions, which so far with the ones you've gone through started March 5th.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, no, no. No, it wasn't a March 5th.
Yeah, there was a 3-5, I remember.
3/5. Let's
The
see.
very first kite. Nanook.
So Galapos.
his initial letter to the warden. I want to confess. I hope I have the opportunity to apologize to the
Yeah.
families.
Oh yeah, request for interview 3-5.
So that's the argument, is that when's the first time he started acting crazy?
And then he says,
I took this guy on a good walk
I
today.
mean, this is such a like a Herculean task for Rosie to like try to deal with this many confessions. It's like, and none of them are specific, like none of them. Like the box cutter thing is like the guy works with box cutters. You know what I mean? It's like it's and there's no indication that's what the
No,
girls
there's no indication a box cutter was used. The guy said it was all speculation.
right. All right, so then we got John Miller on 4/9/23, 6:58 a.m. I killed Abby and Libby. Um, and then it's 7 something. We didn't catch the time. Funniest joke is how he killed them. Uh, shouting foul words. 7:24. I got what I deserved for what I did. I hope I burn in hell. 7:55. I'm sorry for what I did. They're killing them. I'm sorry I killed those kids. This is all on 4/9. Um, so on 4/9, 7:46, I only killed them to give my family more time. 7:52, you can't tell me my wife is dead. 7:58, I'm sorry I killed those kids. I may have touched my daughter, but I don't know. And then that's where Rosie says they never, he always drove home the point that he never said anything about the details of the crime. They said no. And he always seems to be worried about his wife. Yes. He seems to be worried about sparing her, right? Yes. And Brandon Fisher, 4:29, 6 p.m., killed 2 girls with a box cutter and threw it in the dumpster. And then
I can't believe they let this other stuff in, it's like other bad acts. Was there a motion in Lemonade to exclude that? I mean, it's highly prejudicial to let in the words, "I may have touched my daughter, I don't know." It's not relevant to this case. Like,
I
it's
think that,
prejudicial.
yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, I think that what they were at the end of the day, um, I think that their thought is that the shit's like just him. It's like he talked about molesting like his best friend and like some other random dude. Like he's just saying shit. Like in there, but I agree. Like that specifically, that like it bothered me hearing it, which I'm sure it bothered the jury as well. It's just it's highly prejudicial.
I don't remember a pretrial motion to exclude it. That's
I
all I'm saying. There should have been.
Well, they made a motion to keep these all out.
I know, but there should have specifically been, and they sure as shit shouldn't been
Well,
worrying about what the
yeah.
public thought.
I mean, we had that discussion, right? I mean, we had the discussion that he did it, that like they decided to do it like collectively as opposed to one by one,
Right, but what I'm
kind of,
saying
yeah.
is, she didn't even tell it didn't even address the fact that there are unrelated portions that they're calling confessions that are other other bad acts, that are irrelevant, that are prejudicial, that are not, uh, cannot be are inadmissible under 402 and 403. Like, I just if their reasoning was they didn't want the public to know, that's a bad reason, a real bad reason. They needed to be specific and tell the judge what they needed out.
Yeah. All right. Let me keep rolling because I gotta go to bed. Where we've been on for 3.5 hours, and like I've had literally a half an hour to breathe today. Um, so 518, he said, like he says, killed Abby and Libby, and then he's like, he notices that he has a small gash on his head from banging his head, and then he's like, yeah, he doesn't do it hard. It's just something. It's one of those things that he did. Just hits his head on the wall constantly until his head bleeds. This guy's like, yeah, it's not hard. He just consistent. It's one of those things he does. He just hits his head on the wall. Again, this guy's like he's full of shit. He's faking it all. Um, and then so talked to Dr. Walla about him. Said Rick Wallace said that Rick was precious cargo. Um, Told you he wanted to write a confession. Yes. Did you know he already wrote a confession? No. And they're talking about the thing to the warden.
Right.
Okay.
And what was their evidence that he found God right around March 5th?
They haven't put that on yet. That's gonna come through the guy tomorrow. Uh, it's like the guy who listened to all the calls. Um Harshman, I think is his name. Um so then Raymond Smith gets on. He's got Kathy, I did it. Um Kathy, I did it. I'm guilty. Run, Kathy, run.
These are words he's speaking to a guard?
These are words that the guards wrote down that they claim that he said. Like they're just sitting outside of his door listening. Like I don't know if he's talking to them per se.
Or or
7:55
if he's
p.m.
really
I killed
saying
them.
these things.
Right. I killed those two girls. I have to kill myself. And these are on 410. And then so 8/8/23 says if I fuck those girls, I fucked them. If I killed those girls, I killed them. Or I said if I fucked those or if I killed those girls, kill me. And then 4/7/23 saying God bless America. 3:12 a.m. on he's masturbating, saying, "Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys." And then again, he's singing, "God bless America. I'm guilty, running in place. God bless America." At 4:10, 4:50 a.m., he's like, "I want to go camping with Roger. Chris is my best friend." Um, and then the last guy was this Jason Bedwell. And he says, "I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for killing those girls." And then Rosie went in pretty hard. He's like, "You didn't mention the fact that he was curled up in the fetal position when you're alleging that he said that." It's like, "No." Did you write that he was facing the wall? He's like, "No." He's like, "And you notice from when he got there, like as time progressed, his demeanor changed." I said, "Yes." And all of them admitted that, if Rick came in with or had a serious mental illness, that keeping him in solitary for all that time would probably not be in his best interest. It would probably cause more mental anguish.
I mean, that would do that to anybody.
Obviously. Right. So, all right. Can you go through the thank yous so I
Yep.
can? All right. I love you all.
Wait, there's a lot of questions that you might be only able to ask. At
I
least
gotta go to bed.
let me just see if there's one here for you to answer. Um,
I mean, it's midnight for me.
I know.
Do you?
Yeah.
It seems like maybe you don't. I think you can answer them. Like, you heard
Okay.
everything that, like, I think you can do it. I got faith in you. All right, y'all. I love
Yeah.
you. Thank you,
Yeah.
mods. Thanks for hanging. Like, I'm like, all of us out here are losing steam. So hopefully you're giving us all grace. We're not going to be on our A games because this is an exhausting endeavor. Like, I've never done anything like this. It's like insane. It's like now I have to go to sleep and get up in 6 hours again, and then do it all over again, and then do it all over again, and then do it all over,
Yeah, we all get it, babe.
and
Go
then do it
rest.
on Saturday.
I love
Well,
you.
I'm trying to tell you, those are that's the life. It's brutal. I love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
All right, cool lady. Thank you very much. At Defense Diaries, thank you, Bob and Allie, for providing such awesome coverage in the midst of an ocean of misinformation. Laurel 4181, very generous, $20. Thank you. And yes, our hearts are with Abby, Libby, and family for sure. Steffers, member for 4 months. Hi, team. Really appreciate all you're doing. Thank you. Safety Doc became a YouTube member. Thank you. Chelsea, thank you. 1999, very generous. Longtime lurker from just a couple hours west of you. Thank you so much, so very much for all your hard work and dedication to justice. Melly Me, the notes sounded as if he was clearly denying it and sounded credible. He never wavered. The lies about the timeline saying he was there till 3:30, he didn't say that. He may have said that early on. We don't know. Um, but he was saying that could have been just a range. I actually, Bree 92, I went out and like tried to get the very best pens for comfort. However, those tended to be um, the gel writers, and Bob's issue is when he uses those, he writes even faster, so his writing is less legible. Um, so Laurie Life 360 for the win. Member for 3 months. Yes, Melanie, thank you. Um, she's great. And anyone who doesn't follow Attorney Melanie Little, you absolutely should start. LS, thank you. Very generous. Thank you for covering the case that should be important to all of us who value democracy, rights, freedom, and transparency. Hugs to you both. J- Gen X Girl Lawyer, thank you very much for your super sticker. Very generous. Jessica Pickle, thank you for your generosity. At Bob, I would rather have your opinion and observation than exact notes. Uh, you do what you can, and know we all appreciate, and we appreciate all you do. Thank you very much, Jen. Mrs. TVMR 777. I'm from the area. I honestly don't think he did it, and definitely not alone. Everything I'm hearing has convinced me even more he didn't do it. I don't trust any of the law enforcement in our county. Scary stuff from Mrs. TVMR. Joanne, thank you for your generosity. The horror of February 13th and 14th will continue to have life changing effects on many for a lifetime with no true justice for Abby and Libby. I mean, it's really looking that way, you know? It's so hard. Glitter butt outlaw. I hope Kathy let him know he has people out here behind him fighting for him. We do not think he's a monster. Underachiever. Can the defense call Cicero back? I, I think the defense can call whoever back. I don't know. 'Cause I don't know that Bob's been paying attention to whether when they're releasing these Witnesses, they're saying they're subject to recall, or if they're resubpoenaing them, directly, they should make them subject to recall so that they remain subject to the sequestration, meaning they can't be in court or be talked to about what happens in court. Dr. Vonda, that's so funny, Bob. Wendell uses the read on me all the time because I have ADHD. So sometimes it's him lying to me, and sometimes it's my own brain. So Richard Allen said he got to his mom's. I can only go back to Bob's notes. I don't think there was a time. Just that he went to his mom's and that the sister came over and they were going to go to lunch. So he left and he got home around 11:15. Um, we did that earlier. Okay, so did I just click right over a Mandy comment that I was supposed to see? Because if so, I didn't see it. Gen X Jennifer, thank you for your generosity. While waiting for the verdict, I would love to see you guys and Andrea Burkhart, lawyer Lee. Maybe we will. Maybe that if they do that, I probably would stay out of it and let the 3 on the boots lawyers handle it. But I'd like to see that myself. I mean, I don't think anything adds credibility to Carbell because there is no video of this person walking. She was late. Her description's not right. There's so many issues with Carbell. I don't think there's any way to lend credibility to that, in my opinion. K-Dog, thank you for your generosity. I started watching you for justice for Abby and Libby. Now I'm at justice for Richard Allen. The police in Delphi brainwashed me. Want the right person in jail. Well said. Well said. LSU Nancy Drew, thank you for your generosity. If I were a juror, I would question if witnesses are referring to Richard Allen or Bridge Guy when they say they saw him. I'm new to Delphi. Could the jurors also be confused? Don't chat that much. Listen always. Love you guys. Well, LSU Nancy Drew, I do think that the jurors 100% see that these people didn't identify Richard Allen. And I think, and this is obviously just my opinion, that they think they're talking about who they believe to have been Bridge Guy. But I don't know if they necessarily think Bridge Guy is Richard Allen. But I don't think there's any way that it's lost on the jurors that who all of these witnesses describe look nothing like Richard Allen. So does it even matter? That's how I hope they're thinking. But Gretchy Mama became a YouTube member. Thank you. Carrie, thank you for your generosity. Given how confusing the whole trail area seems to be, will the jury be allowed to visit the scene if they ask to? So the defense had originally made a motion to let them out there. The state fought it. The defense withdrew it. And I do not think if the jurors ask for it without one of the parties that the judge will do it. She might have the discretion to, but typically if they ask for something that wasn't admitted into evidence, they're going to say you have all the evidence that you can have. So I think this would be treated the same way because they're asking to see something that wasn't technically admitted during the trial, meaning they weren't taken out there. So I don't believe that they'd be allowed to see it even if they ask. Afton gifted a membership. Thank you. Dr. Vonda, she gifted 5 memberships. Thank you. Dr. Vonda was paying Bob to go to sleep, and that was an hour ago. She did that twice. Thank you for your generosity. Amy, thank you for your super sticker. Johannes Windleberry, thank you for your generosity. If I told my wife this, she would immediately know it is wrong. Women know this kind of thing and what is real. Facts. And women are definitely the smarter sex. CIA $5. Thank you for your generosity. Hey, I would love to sit down off podcast with you sometime and have a chat with you. I lived here while they were investigating the case. All right. Hey. Uh, I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to use that logo if it's not legit. Seems legit, but what do I know? Ah, and then Bob reminds me to check for Venmo and PayPal. I don't know that I can see the PayPal because I'm assuming it's like under his PayPal, but I can see Venmo because we both get the emails. Um, and Erica, last name I'm not going to say, gave us $15 for coffee and eggs, but that was October 21st. So hopefully we have thanked you before that. Um, and I don't see anything else. So yep. All right. CIA. Mandy, I know you've posted the email before, but you could do insider at defensediaries.com or bob at defensediaries.com or oh wait, a true crime podcast at gmail.com. Pretty sure that's it. Hey, I don't look, guys, if somebody thinks that the evidence is leaning towards guilt and they're being like reasonable, let's not give them a hard time. I don't know. I missed some of the what's going on over here in the chat, but Bob and I like getting opinions from other people who think differently from the rest of us. I know you've heard him say it many times. This isn't a sounding board. Um, it's good to get others' opinions. We can't ask people to stay open to all opinions and then not do that ourselves. But so did somebody send Cash App? I don't know. Oh, Kate, um, and I won't say her last name. Thank you for your generosity. She sent a Venmo just now. We love Venmos. We love not giving YouTube their piece of the pie. And she made a comment too. Let's see. Thanks, you guys. And this is she's at Civil Rights Investigation. Oh yeah, I've seen you out there. Thank you. Thank you. Wait, there are more. Okay. So Joelle was at the courthouse before court got out today to sit in line for lawyer Lee and somehow missed you exiting the courthouse. So grateful for what you, Bob, and Allie do. Thank you. And thank you, Joelle. I don't know how all these popped up now. Shannon, thank you. $20 holler. Great job, Bob. You're the one that gives us to us straight. Penny, thank you for your generosity. And that's Pen R on YouTube. I think you should jot down highlights and little reminders and come give us your opinions and observations. Andrea tells details, but we like to hear your thoughts. What the judge, jury, and gallery reactions. Quit stressing to be a court reporter. So she's saying, you know, your observations. They're happy to just get your observations, Bob's observations. Thank you all. Thank you all for your generosity. Wait a minute. I think I am seeing PayPal now too. All right. Dana, thank you for your generosity. Dana says, I appreciate and respect both of you. Very, very generous. Thank you. I think I got into Bob's email. That's what happened. I forgot I can get to his Gmail. Hmm. Okay. So let's see if anything new came in. Joe Schmo, member for 5 months. 5 months. Appreciate Bob at trial every day, and Allie here for him. Thank you, Joe Schmo, and thank you for all your maps and everything else. Um, well, for MAGA, Allie, you do a beautiful job. Thank you. I'm unable to monetary contribute, only subscribe. Thank you. Well, we love subscribers. We definitely do throughout try to star um, subscribers' comments and get to them when we can. Obviously, not all of you, but we do try to put in a certain number of subscriber questions and comments as well. So definitely appreciate you and that. Dr. Vonda came in again. Thank you. Thank you, Bob, for getting all those statements like that. It really does matter. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for your time. I'll be back at you this this afternoon next tomorrow afternoon, and we'll go from there. Have a good night and see you tomorrow. Thanks everybody.